I am calling the December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Education to order in accordance with Governance Code 54950 Executor and Education Code Sections 35140 Executor at 5:01 p.m. We will now be adjourning to closed session for the purpose of discussing the following matters: public employee discipline, dismissal, suspension, release, leave assignment, non-reelection, non-reappointment, resignation, reinstatement pursuant to Government Code 54957, technology services technician. 3.2, personnel matters, public employee appointments, employee pursuant to Government Code 54957. 3.3, conference with labor negotiators, Dr. Alex Chernus, Superintendent, Gary Stein, Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, Dr. Isaac Gates, Deputy Superintendent, for the purposes of CSEA, APLE, and PLUM. 3.4 is claims. General liability claim number 647638. Claimant is Alfred Ronquillo. Agency claimed against this Placentia-Yorba Unified School District for workers' compensation claim number PYL 230001016 in the monetary amount of $70,000. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address any of these items? Seeing that we have none, we will adjourn to closed session at 5:03 p.m. All right, we're going to convene to regular session at reconvene, I should say, at 6:01 p.m. The report out of closed session is as follows. The board took action in closed session to terminate the employment of employee ID number 1468, a permanent classified employee assigned as a technology services technician. Motion was made by Mrs. Anderson, the second was by Mrs. Buck, and the vote carried 5-0. The second closed session item was the board met and conferred in closed session to approve workers' compensation claim number PYL 230001016. Motion was made by Mrs. Buck, the second was made by Mrs. Anderson, and the motion carried 5-0. And that is all that is there to report. And now I'm going to ask Todd Frazier to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please stand? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let it be shown that our entire board and our student board member are all present tonight. And I need an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 17th, 2024 Board of Education agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Frazier. I have a second by Mrs. Anderson. Is there any comments? Seeing no comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0 with an aye from our student board member. Public comment cards are available in the foyer. Cards must be completed and turned in prior to the designated time for public comment. We provide a maximum of 3 minutes per person. If translation is needed, an additional 3 minutes will be given. Please let us know ahead of time if you do need a translator so we can ensure that we are adequately prepared. We do have a civility policy. Education Code 220 prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race, or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any other characteristic that is contained in the definition of a hate crime set forth in 422.55 of the Penal Code, including immigration status. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chernus.
Okay. We have the item 11.1. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. 10. Recognition of outgoing board president. All right. Good evening, President Blades, members of the community, board members, executive cabinet. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our outgoing board president and esteemed colleague, Ms. Leandra Blades. Ms. Blades was elected to the Board of Education in 2020, and this past year marked her first term as president. Throughout this year, Ms. Blades has exemplified leadership, dedication, and a commitment to our students, staff, families, and the greater PYL-USD community. Under her leadership, the board has navigated a year filled with important decisions and impactful work, always keeping the success and well-being of our students at the forefront. Her contributions have played a significant role in advancing the district's academic and organizational achievements, and we're deeply grateful for her service. To express our heartfelt appreciation for her hard work and dedication, we'd like to present her with a personalized clock as a small token of our gratitude. Thank you, Mrs. Blades, for your leadership and for your continued service to PYL-USD and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your board president for the last year. It's been a fun time. We got a lot accomplished, and look forward to another 4 years. And keeping with the tradition, I am going to go to 11.1, which is the organization of board member positions, and I am going to nominate Todd Frazier as president of the Board of Education for the period of December 17th, 2024 through December 16th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right. We'll go ahead and move for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
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 And I'm an aye.
I don't vote, right?
So I'll make a counter motion to that. I'd like to nominate Marilyn Anderson as president of the Board of Education through December 17th, 2024 through December 16th, 2025.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck and a second by Mrs. Quintero. Any discussion?
I mean, just the only question I have is there an issue with you being with Dr. Chernus individually? Legally?
Order in the court.
Court.
No. There's no issue.
There's no legal issue causing you to not be able to be?
There's
with
no
him?
HR issues.
Not that I'm aware of.
I will do my best to work with Ms. Anderson and serve the students of the district.
Okay, I will say though that I do think that moving forward, if you are elected as board president, if there's anything that needs to be done from the HR standpoint, or if there's anything that needs to be done to help facilitate a better relationship, that it should be done.
And I have offered an olive leaf to Dr. Turnus many times, and he's reciprocated, and we're moving forward.
Very good. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No. All right, Mrs. Anderson is the board president. Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much. I'm very excited to serve as board president, and I will do my best to maintain civility and transparency and to bring collaboration to our district again and to make sure that all of our students are well taken care of. So, thank you. Okay. I would like to make a motion to nominate Carrie Buck as Vice President of the Board of Education for the period of December 17th through December 16th, 2025.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion by me and a second by Mrs. Quintero. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, makes motion carried 5-0.
And I'll make a motion that we elect Todd Frazier as Clerk of the Board of Education of period December 17, 24 through December 16, 25.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck and a second by Mrs. Blades. Any discussion?
No, I'm recommending Todd because he's next in order, and I think that would be the right thing to do.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Okay. So now I need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move we approve the November 19th, 2024 board minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, are there any comments? Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Buck and a second by Mr. Frazier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have, it's 4-0 with,
5-0.
5-0.
Tricia wasn't at the,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's right. You'll
Yeah,
have to
sorry, you
for that one.
can't.
Although you were here.
With an aye from our student board member. Thank you, Luke.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 10th, 2024 as presented.
A second?
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Frazier and a second by Mrs. Blades. Any comment? Okay. Sorry, Luke, you don't get to vote on this one either. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Luke was curfewed that night.
No one invited me. I didn't get invited, so I was watching another Aldo basketball game, so it's whatever. In case you guys didn't want me here, so it's fine.
We'll try to be better with the next student board member. Okay, we are to 13.1. A public hearing will be held regarding the adoption of resolution number 24-07, accepting the annual and 5-year developer fees report pursuant to Government Code Section 66001, 66006, 66008, for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. And we'll open that at 6:14. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on the developer fees report? Okay, come on up. Oh.
Good evening. Congratulations to the new board president and vice president. My name is Patricia Hanzo, and it's been an interesting 4 years watching the school board do several things that I don't agree with. I would like to talk about developer fees and needing for more transparency. And at the same time, I hope in the next year or two, we can actually look at the list that was developed prior to the 2020 election to see which school sites got sidelined for any modernization projects or programs, which school sites were ignored and moved aside. The school sites that are being modernized with developer fees need to spread across the district. There's a chart in today's agenda that shows mainly east side school sites, which does not seem fair to me. So across the district, please look at all school sites that need to be modernized, construction using developer fees. Since 2023, the district office starved the community, starved us from information when we asked for budgets, spending costs, projections, program design, and that included the plan on how to spend developer fees. So I hope that makes a change. We ask that these projects be clear and start sooner, which include construction drawings, for bids to last longer than 3 weeks, for permits to be used, and to actually go through the state agencies that are required to be informed of any construction, like DSA or any other county agencies, state agencies, government agencies, because it felt like in 2023 and in 2024, some stuff was not in compliance. So I would like this board to please focus on the future projects, but also keep in mind of past rushed projects that were rushed and done in with under 6 months, which is not typical of a governing agency to do. Normally, agencies take a year, you pilot something, or you make a proposal, and it gets reviewed a couple times, not rushed through by a governing board like this. We ask that you take a look at past documents to learn which school sites were delayed. Please focus on facilities that need updates, modernization. Hopefully not too many got sidelined. And on another note, to this new board, I hope that President Anderson gets on the Bridges of Kramer's committee, because she was sidelined from that committee, which is part of her territory. So just something to think about. Thank you for your time. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wanting to speak on developer fees? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the hearing at 6:17. Now it's time for our student board report. Mr. Luke?
Good evening, President Anderson, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Chernus, and executive cabinet members. I'm excited to be here tonight to share recent updates from our comprehensive high schools and alternative campuses. And I'm sorry if I sound a little stuffy. I've been a little sick these past few weeks, so mind if I cough or if I sneeze in between these. Buena Vista Virtual Academy and Parkview School are wrapping up the semester and getting into the holiday spirit. Tomorrow, December 18th, elementary students will perform cheerful holiday songs for family and friends. Following the performance, they will enjoy their annual Grinchmas Pancake Breakfast, generously sponsored by the PTA. Secondary students will have the opportunity to earn community service hours while helping serve families and spreading holiday cheer. This is always a wonderful community event as we head into winter break. El Camino has been very busy with several college and career events for students, as well as festivities to celebrate the holidays and at the end of the first semester. Last week, El Camino held Career Day, where speakers representing career fields that students expressed interest in shared highlights about their education, background, and professional highlights. Career Day speakers included a nurse, teacher, police officer, electrician, HVAC technician, cosmetologist, district attorney, entrepreneur, wealth manager, and nonprofit executive. In addition, PYL USD HR representatives presented district job opportunities, and ROP met with students to share CTE course offerings. The Raptors are celebrating the holidays with a Winterfest week from December 16th to 19th. Staff and students will show their spirit by wearing winter accessories, flannels, holiday sweaters, and pajamas each day. The highlight of Winterfest is their quarterly Student Appreciation Barbecue, where all students receive a barbecue lunch, hot chocolate, and treats. Specific students are recognized for their second quarter successes, including attendance, effort, improvement, and helpfulness. Additionally, their tree of thanks has been replaced by a tree of wishes, where staff and students will write down their resolutions and hopes for the new year. On December 4th, the El Dorado Golden Hawks hosted their annual high school showcase for 8th grade students and their families. The night was a huge success. The Performing Arts Center was standing room only, and the overflow crowd watched the live stream in the practice gym. Guests enjoyed impressive highlights videos showcasing all areas of the nest, including the arts, athletics, activities, DMAA, ED Law, and of course, academics. The highlight of the showcase every year is the current Golden Hawks, who take the stage to share their stories about life at El Dorado. The evening concluded with the time-honored tradition of joining the Golden Hawk drumline for the rain dance. On December 13th, during the annual Winter Rally, the entire Golden Hawk student body and staff were treated to Sierra Vista Eagles transitional kindergarten classes rendition of Do You Want to Build a Snowman from the movie Frozen. Additionally, EDHS ASB granted 10 wishes for students this year through their Wish Box initiative. Both moments created lasting memories. The El Dorado Golden Hawk Marching Band recently passed third and earned the bronze medal in the largest and most competitive field at the SCSBOA 6A Championships at Citrus College. The history, tradition, and spirit of this group are legendary in the world of high school marching bands, and the Nest is incredibly proud of their remarkable achievements. This marks the second bronze medal in the past 3 years of the Golden Hawks. The Aztecs are currently selling tickets for their district-wide winter formal, which will bring together all students from all 5 PYUSD high schools. This dance is for PYUSD students, and we're all incredibly excited. Esperanza just finished their winter week, filled with dress-up days, hot cocoa, candy canes, holiday hats, and even snow. It was a great way to get the Aztecs into the holiday spirit. On Tuesday, December 12th, Esperanza visited Ruby Drive Elementary School for their annual holiday exchange. Over 25 clubs and sports teams gave gifts to every Ruby Drive student. In return, Ruby Drive students made cards, sang songs, and created crafts for the Aztecs. It was such a fun and heartwarming holiday event. The Aztecs are gearing up for their finals, which began this week. Students are studying hard and working to master the material covered during the first semester. And winter sports are in full swing, with all teams in preseason and gearing up for their league competition. And a huge shout out to the Esperanza Entertainment Unit, who came home from the championships with third-place finish in Division 4A. This is the highest ranking the EEU has ever received. Thanks to their amazing Aztecs and director, Mr. Davis. George Key students and staff would like to thank Lakeview Principal Mrs. Given, Secretary Sarah Bissell, and Custodian Jose for their assistance and for hosting the Sunrise Rotary Holiday Party on Friday, December 13th at Lakeview. George Key students and staff enjoyed a visit from Santa, gifts, and a staff luncheon. Sunrise Rotary has partnered with George Key for over 40 years to make this event special. This year, Santa had a present for every student, and Sunrise Rotary presented Principal Allen with a $2,000 check raised through Rotary's Lobster Fest fundraiser. Special thanks to David Sweet, Char Knapp, and the Rotarians for their generosity and commitment to George Key School. At Venture Academy, students had the honor of serving coffee and donuts to principals during the principal meeting on December 12th. Students Moises and Bailey did a fantastic job providing treats for their group. Moises and Bailey enjoyed working on the coffee cart and will begin setting up a monthly coffee cart at the district office starting in January. For you guys. This program allows district employees to purchase a little pick-me-up while supporting Venture students. Moises and Bailey are paid through the Workability Program and calculated the overhead costs, time, and labor before presenting educational service with an invoice. Thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Chernus, Executive Cabinet, Educational Service, and the district office staff for supporting their growing coffee business. George Key and Venture Academy students and staff wish everyone a joyous holiday season. At Valencia, the mock trial team defeated Newport Harbor to qualify for the playoffs, finishing the season ranked in top 10 in Orange County. They look forward to scrimmaging El Dorado in January in preparation for next year's competitions. Valencia celebrated 29 students receiving AP National Recognition for their achievements, representing diverse backgrounds, including National Hispanic, African American, Indigenous, and first-generation students. The Tigers are proud of these trailblazing students. Valencia hosted its second annual Pie a Teacher fundraiser for Lot 318, an organization serving the local Placentia community. 15 teachers volunteered to be pied by students, raising $480 in 30 minutes and collecting over 150 toy donations for Lot 318. Would you guys get pied or no? I was thinking about that. You guys get pied? Okay, good. Yeah. Do you like the little game you can play? It's like the board game, and you can press the thing, and it pies you in the face. You have it? It's scary. It's like, I'm down. The Mustangs' fall sports season ended with 3 league championships: women's volleyball, women's tennis, and men's water polo. Freshman Sofia Dumitrascu, placed in the top 20 in Division I tennis. The football team reached the CIF semifinals Division II, and head coach varsity Jeff Bailey was named Orange County Coach of the Year. He was recognized at the NFL LA Chargers game on Sunday. Women's cross country placed 8th in the state for the second consecutive year in Division III, and Mustang Torn Habestad placed 24th out of 214 runners in the state meet, an impressive accomplishment at the highest level of competition. That concludes my written board report, but this is my last meeting, so I just wanted to thank everyone on the board for their hospitality, everyone who's reached out to me. It's been really nice up here, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So thank you guys, and that concludes my final board report.
President Anderson, if I may.
Oh, I have a question for Luke.
Oh, please.
He's not escaping without his
Okay.
final question.
Gosh.
Now that your time as student board member has come to an end, what would you say has been your biggest takeaway from this experience, and what would you offer our incoming board member advice?
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about when you go to elementary school and you go to middle school and you keep going up, and you kind of realize that there's always someone higher in the scale of things. Like when you're in elementary school, you're like, oh, your teacher, right? It's like, number one, she makes all the rules or he makes all the rules. And then middle school, you're like, oh, the principal, right? They make all the rules. And then you realize there's a superintendent and the board. And it makes me realize how hard you guys all work and how hard you guys all work to help each student and make each campus better. And it's been a really cool experience seeing all the behind the scenes stuff that you guys do and, you know, helping to be a part of that as much as I can. I think that's a really cool opportunity. And my advice to the next board member is to be yourself. I mean, you speak for the students, so try to keep that in mind, and just don't be shy. You know, be ready to speak. I try not to be shy up here too. I don't know if you guys noticed, but
It took you a while to come out of your shell.
yeah, just a
You
little bit.
definitely have not been.
But yeah, that'd be my advice, and that'd be my answer to the question. So thank you for asking.
Well, thank you so much, Luke. We really appreciate it. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Chernus.
All right, so good evening, President Anderson, members of the school board. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our outgoing, this time, our outgoing student board member, Luke Gilstrap. He's represented our schools and our district well, extremely well. And it's been a pleasure working with Luke this semester. We had a good conversation before the meeting, and be sure to come back, and I'm happy to help you out in any way in your future endeavors. His reports have always been thorough, his feedback insightful, but more importantly, he's been genuine and really shared what the students feel and believe and what you feel and believe. So Luke, we wish you success after graduation and beyond. At this moment, we'd like to present to you a commemorative plaque to honor your service.
And Luke, while you're walking up and getting this, while I was at CSBA, I was at one of the workshops, and one of the board members that was presenting had been a student board member as well. So you never know what's going to happen.
And we'll all be waiting for the drop of your first podcast episode.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think you guys are my coworkers. You're my friends. You know what I'm saying? So we're all friends now.
That's right.
Even though you guys might be a little more older than me, but you know, we're friends.
Like not much though.
Not much. What?
I don't like really.
21,
Yeah.
22, 20.
Yeah. Luke, I appreciate all that you did. You were a great sport. You kept the board meetings lively, you were honest, the people were saying genuine, and you weren't afraid to say where you stood on things, which was really good. And so we really enjoyed having you, and I just wish you the best in the future, and good luck, and I think you're going to do great things.
Luke, it's been really fun getting to know you and seeing how you work in this type of environment. But most importantly, I've loved seeing you on the campus at El Dorado in your element and leading the students at El Dorado High School. You're a remarkable leader, and you're going to do great things. And we're so proud of you. So thank you so much for serving with us. Okay. Now I'll turn the time over to Dr. Chernus for the superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening, President Anderson, members of the board. First of all, I'd like to welcome Tricia Quintero to the school board. Mrs. Quintero is representing Area 1. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Child Development from Cal State Fullerton, as well as multiple subject teaching credential and a Master's of Education degree. She's lived in Placentia for 24 years with her husband and 2 children, who are proud graduates of PYL schools. With over 25 years of experience as an elementary school teacher, Tricia has served in leadership roles such as grade level chair, school site council member, and PTA representative. She's also been deeply involved in her children's schools, including serving as PTA president at Wagner and PTSA president at El Dorado High School. Her dedication earned her multiple PTA honorary service awards and recognitions as El Dorado High School's 2024 community honoree. Tricia, welcome. I look forward to working with you, and I know you're going to be a tremendous board member and a great representative to our community. So congratulations. As the new board prepares for 2025 and beyond, I'd like to propose a workshop session for the board. This would be a dedicated time for us to come together and collaboratively discuss strategic goals for our district. It's an ideal time and opportunity for us to align our efforts and set a unified direction that will guide our decision-making in the months and years ahead. A workshop would provide the time and space for open dialogue, idea sharing, and thoughtful collaboration. By working together, we can identify clear, actionable priorities that reflect shared values and visions. I really do believe it's time for us to come together as a community. What I've seen is a clear dichotomy between some of the negativity that we see and hear in board meetings and what I see and hear when I visit the school sites. Our district has the best principals I've ever worked with, the best group of teachers and support staff I've ever seen, and there's tangible data to support this. We've increased student test scores in our district. We're growing our district. We have families enrolling at increasing rates. We're building new preschools, and we're sparking innovation amongst our staff. So it's my hope that these board meetings begin to reflect the success and positivity that we see in our schools. And that's my pledge to support that. Despite our positive growth, we must remain focused on getting more kids at grade level and above in ELA and math. That is my primary focus, and that it's that of our administrative team too. The interventions we put in place, the instructional best practices, the inclusive strategies that we're talking about and continue to focus on. We have many more students in our district, thousands of kids that are below grade level, and so we need to support them. Lastly, yesterday's tragedy in Madison, Wisconsin reminds us that school safety is of the utmost priority. So as a board and executive team, we need to study our current school safety program. I would recommend that is one of the board priorities that we would discuss should the board agree to a workshop. So I do look forward to the opportunity to work together as we outline our collective goals and chart our path forward. Together, we can achieve meaningful outcomes that will strengthen our district. Finally, I'd like to thank Gary Stein with our deepest gratitude. This will be his last meeting, for his contributions to PYL USD. Although you've been with us for just over a year, your dedication and your passion have really left a mark with our staff. Your role was by no means an easy one, yet you consistently approached every challenge with remarkable calmness and resilience. Your ability to maintain composure under pressure and your commitment to making things happen has been remarkable. So we're profoundly thankful to you. You will be greatly missed. So we wish you the best in your future endeavors and hopeful for calmer waters ahead. And so finally, happy holidays. We want to extend our warmest wishes to everyone the joy and spirit of the holidays are upon us. It's a great time for reflection, gratitude, and I know many of our teachers out there need a well-earned break. So we're almost there. We have 3 more days of school left, and wishing you all a happy holiday season.
Thank you, Dr. Chernus. Okay, now it is time for public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the public to provide input to the Board of Education. During the public comment period, board members do not dialogue with speakers or make comments regarding the information shared. We have 12 people wishing to speak tonight, so each speaker will be given 2 minutes. Also, if speakers can repeat their name when they come up to speak, and I'll call the first 4 speakers to sit on the first row. Our first speaker is Sue Sawyer. Andy Falco is our second speaker. Third is Anita Lee. And fourth, Linda Cohn.
Sue Sawyer. Good evening. I stand here tonight with serious concerns regarding the actions and decisions taking place in our district. First, why were staff members who tried to protect the district from illegal or unethical spending subjected to investigations, demotions, and terminations? Administrators have been threatened with financial penalties and then given impossible ultimatums. A director with 28 years of service was forced to resign after reporting potential financial mismanagement. Another was forced out by a hostile work environment after raising fiscal concerns. Employees who speak out against corruption and fiscal malfeasance are retaliated against time and again. This raises serious questions about the ethics of those currently serving in leadership positions. Next, why does an Ed Services TOSA have CTE in their title when their primary responsibility is overseeing the computer instructional specialists in elementary, unrelated to CTE? Is this to justify spending or funding their position with CTE grant monies? Lastly, the board's recent decision to extend contracts for 4 executive administrators under dubious circumstances and then provide them with additional protection from being fired, even for cause, only adds fuel to the fire of suspicion. This kind of backroom deal-making only serves to perpetuate the fraud, waste, and corruption that now plagues the district. And given how board members Blades, Frazier, and Youngman went out of their way to minimize the significance and impact of the many district leaders and school site administrators who have been released or threatened with reassignment by this cabinet just in the past year, is the height of hypocrisy. We deserve better leadership, we deserve fiscal transparency, and we demand accountability. Thank you.
Andy Falco. Out of the 50 states, California schools are 40th and 49th in education and safety due to the negative influence of the teachers union cabal. Here in PYLUSD, we have the same teachers union attacking and threatening the existence of the best school in our country, Orange County School of Computer Science, and the best principal by far, Dr. Beth Fisher. The attacks and lies are absurd in every way. In social media groups, the teachers union representatives proudly say they own Tricia Quintero and Marilyn Anderson and claim Quintero and Anderson will absolutely and promptly close OCSCS and fire Dr. Fisher, Dr. Chernus, and Dr. Gates. My son and other students at OCSCS are thriving at the school. I recently spent 3 days speaking to the students at OCSCS and spoke to several teachers in the teachers lounge. And to a person, they love OCSCS, and the teachers love working at the school. I did not see a phone on a student's hand, the entire time, and I was at the school every day that I was at the school, and every student was polite and well disciplined. I pray and implore all of you to stand strong and do not allow the teachers union to dismantle this district as they claim they are going to do. And before I leave, I just want to say Luke is an amazing friend to my son over at El Dorado High School. They're on the same lacrosse team. He's a great teammate, and he's just an example of what we have here at El Dorado High School. Luke is a hard player, strong player. He hits hard, spends a lot of time in the penalty box. I get lots of pictures of him in the penalty box, but Luke, you are an example of what we can produce here at PYLUSD. So thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. 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 Thank you, An
Hi, my name is Anita Lee, and I have never been happier to attend a school board meeting. And I just want to thank you, Superintendent Chernus, for your remarks, and I hope they were genuine, and I hope this is beginning a new era where the temperature and atmosphere of everything comes down to peace and civility. I just want to express my deepest gratitude and congratulations to Trustees Quintero and Anderson on their well-deserved election and re-election, and of course to Trustee Anderson as you begin serving as board president. It has been my fervent desire, and that of so many others in our community, of vested parents, teachers, administrators, and counselors who truly champion public education, service, and care of, and camaraderie among our students and families to restore peace, stability, transparency, responsibility, due diligence, and listening ears in the governing board of PYL-USD, as well as to restore high staff and teacher morale. My hope is that this board, together with Trustees Buck, Blades, and Frazier, will now use all your voices and authority humbly and conscientiously to serve reason and the common good of all students, and to be responsive to the will of your constituents as shared in these public comments during these board meetings, as well as hopefully future town hall meetings over the next 4 years. I hope and pray that all 5 of you will work collaboratively, peaceably, and responsibly, so that you and we as a community find joy and confidence in your leadership and service. So thank you for any willingness to pursue that too.
Good evening. Welcome aboard, Trustee Quintero, Luke, and Mr. Stein. We will miss you. Thank you for your good work, and bless you. Last week, Apple President Linda Mannion told us that voters were given a lot of information in the recent election. And the result was that the public convincingly chose a different direction. I am not questioning the vote. What I question is the information that was given to voters. Was this information always the truth? I knocked on probably a few thousand doors before the election, and when I described the Orange County School of Computer Science and the Universal Sports Institute to prospective voters, there was almost universal positive reaction. They saw these as innovative, worthwhile programs to have. But there was one persistent rumor that I ran up against, that money to upgrade Valencia's cafeteria, long overdue, had been diverted to fund the Computer Science School and the Sports Institute. This was repeatedly denied. I believe that it is absolutely not true, and the best proof is the fact that we're doing all of the above right now, just as Dr. Chernus said we were able to do. I am reminded that voters in the Orange recall were frequently lied to. They were deceived. They were given misinformation. I talked to several personally. They were very, very upset and angry. I would hope that the same thing was not widespread in our own district. But I'm really quite disturbed at the constant statements of deep-seated corruption, referencing to the school, and my time has run out. More later. Thank you.
The next 4, we have Matt Wilkerson, Patricia Hanzo, Holly Peache, and Linda Mannion.
And good evening. Matt Wilkerson, father of 2 in the district. According to Board Bylaw 9021, trustees have a responsibility to act in the best interest of the district. I'm here tonight to argue that the former board majority has willfully neglected those responsibilities. Ms. Blades and Mr. Frazier knowingly allowed and empowered the superintendent to unethically attempt to take the Orange County School of Computer Science and the USI out of the district's control and attempt to hand it off to an independent board made up of compliant insiders. This was done not to improve educational outcomes, as is their mandate, but to hide financial mismanagement that occurred under the previous administration. This action would have cost the district millions in lost ADA funding, as well as the loss of valuable physical assets that would have been paid for by taxpayer money. No amount of gaslighting by the superintendent can dispute that fact. I implore Mr. Stein to share any information he has about how funds have been moved around to fund both of these initiatives. No one believes the USI has only cost $1.4 million when you factor in architects, construction at Casa Loma, Placentia-Yorba, equipment purchase, staffing, insurance, and the fees that the training lab is charging the district. In addition to fiscal transparency moving forward, I would also like to ask for a full review of the superintendent's performance as required by Board Bylaw 9021B. This is long overdue. The bylaws state the superintendent is supposed to work for the board and the district. Dr. Chernus has repeatedly demonstrated his own self-interest supersede the obligations he has to PYLUSD. Under his administration, this district has suffered irreparable neglect, staff loss, and potential fraud regarding the USI. It is time to put an end to this self-dealing and poor leadership. Thank you.
As a parent and homeowner, I'd like our tax money to be accounted for, so any disclosures on financial spending by the financial department or any employee can please come out. I would love to see whistleblowers. As far as the workshops that the superintendent mentioned, I just hope they do not violate the Brown Act. And I hope workshops or meetings that do not include the public are not intended to bottleneck ideas or filter ideas that our board trustees have. Those discussions required by the Brown Act should happen during open meetings, not in some workshop where the public is not present. On item 18.3, the first interim report for Placentia-Yorba Middle School site, the computer science school started in August. It's only had one report card ever. So it's shocking to see how it was going to be pulled away and given away as a gift to become an independent charter school. I encourage you to look into the finances, and I find it very unprofessional for Parkview School to be negatively impacted because students were pulled away. That should not have happened. Parkview School has existed for a long time, and we need to keep it strong. So please support it. Do not gut it. I encourage trustees to bring transparency in planning, budgets, program design, project development, and audits. And I also have this thing that I like books, and so I remember the lit review process was flipped upside down, putting a trustee as step one, where in the past, that was not the case. Please bring back the original lit review process and help employees do their job without fear. Qualified and trained teachers know what they're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Hanzo.
Hi, my name's Holly Peach, and I should be home grading 150 essays tonight. But I came to support my friend Leandra and all of the others that have to deal with quite a bit up here on a weekly basis. I came to the board meeting 2 years ago in a green sweatsuit, and those of you behind me know what that means. I showed up in full green outfit, having no idea what was going on. I just heard there was chaos up at the district, and I wanted to come check it out, see for myself what was going on. And it didn't take me long to figure it out. I am a teacher, and I have so many conservative friends that are teachers, and I text them or email them and say, what is this where Lion Leandra is against teachers? Because Leandra is supportive of teachers and students and tolerates so much. I have never seen a woman that has had to endure as much online as Leandra. In fact, the recent article, Leandra got shivved by her ally, Youngblood, and then others in this room are cheering that on, saying, great article, this is good. And yet the next comment out of someone up here is, let's return to civility. So Marilyn, I know you said civility. I hope that you understand what's going on in the background, because it's a lot of chaos. And as a teacher,
I have had teachers talk down about principals, and then the minute that principal was removed, all of a sudden they're on the rampage to have all my students walk out of my class and boycott what was going on. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I have had a teacher stand up and say I'm queer on the first day of school. I have had a teacher put a 6-foot pride flag in her classroom, but I went in on back to school night and it was removed. I have had a fellow teacher call me and my friends MAGA, far right, extremist, and yet make fun of Dr. Gates' wonderful outfits out of the, so these things can't happen. We can't be speaking out of both sides of our mouth.
Thank you so much.
Linda Mannion, President of the Association of Placentia-Linda Educators, and I'm here tonight for one reason, and that's to congratulate our board, to welcome Tricia Quintero, to thank you, Luke. You've been amazing. Wish all of you a wonderful holiday season and look forward to January where we can all continue the good work that we do every day. So happy holidays, everyone. Welcome, and we have a new vista in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Ben Stubbs, David Peterson, Priya Shah, and Mark Ferry.
Hi, good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and community. My name is Ben Stubbs, and I wanted to speak on, if I may, agenda item 21.1. I urge you to vote no, as we have in the past, on joining the California School Board Association, otherwise known as the CSBA. Our district was previously a member, but canceled its membership because it didn't find value and chose to invest those funds elsewhere. So first, the cost is very significant, I think, $17,614 for 6 months membership or $35,000 annually for the CSBA membership. And these funds, they could be better spent directed benefiting the students and the teachers and improving classroom resources and expanding student programs. Second, many of the CSBA services like legal support and policy samples, of which there's over like 640 of those, just kind of cookie cutter policies. Those are kind of duplicate resources that we already have, including legal counsel, policy tools, and seasoned staff. This makes membership redundant, I think. So lastly, CSBA prioritizes statewide political initiatives that may not align with PYL-USD's priorities, and their mission is, quote, to define and drive the public education policy agenda. So I think taxpayers shouldn't pay $35,000 annually for training aligned with statewide politics for our elected board members. I think our district thrives better on addressing local needs and maintaining control of our policies for students and our teachers. So in short and otherwise, it doesn't make sense for me that we would elect our chosen leaders to the board and then have our chosen leaders request training with the district footing the bill of $35,000 a year in order for them to receive leadership training. So thank you for consideration. Vote no, please, on that item number 21.1. Thank you.
He did a good job of being here right on the time. Dave Peterson, and good to see new faces and a new design here. And speaking to a couple items, first of all, welcome to Tricia. So many are thrilled to see your contribution to the board and the future that you bring. Thank you. Next, Gary, thank you for being that smiling and objective face over there in the corner. I know Huntington Beach, I think that's the target, will be, benefiting greatly from your objectivity, your clarity, and your projection. Thank you for what you brought us here. Next, the kind of piggyback on the positivity concept that you're bringing, Dr. Chernis, kind of to the overall design, helping to make that happen. One of the things that happened last year in May, June, was that something didn't happen here at the board, is that all the retiring teachers from the district were not recognized and honored for their service. There was never a time for that. And, you know, when a person puts their life into teaching, they're not looking for the reward, but it just really feels complete when you get that respect back at you from those in leadership. So I hope in next year's calendar that's included, where those that have served, you know, have that opportunity to be recognized. And as positivity, as that moves into the staff area, and staff no longer have to be worried about keeping their heads down, they can express their thoughts freely, don't have to worry about being moved from job site to another job site without request. That'll help a lot. Thank you.
Trustee Gilstrap, you did an excellent job, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. President Anderson, you have shown that you are a careful, thoughtful, and persistent leader. What I ask is that you continue to seek out the voices of those, especially students whose life experiences are different than yours, so that all of our students can be treated with dignity and truly put first. Trustee Quintero, congratulations on your election by an overwhelming majority of your constituents. I welcome the perspective of an educator and involved parent and PTA participant on the board, and I ask that you listen to all of us and to respond to our communications. Trustee Buck, congratulations on your position as VP of the board. You have shown your dedication and commitment to our students and community for far over a decade now. I ask that you help lead our school district forward again, focusing and returning us to a focus on academic excellence, something that has been lost in the culture wars of the last 4 years. And Superintendent Chernus, I ask that you attempt to work with this new board and with our community without patronizing us. I think that you will find us to be an engaged, smart, and dedicated group of parents, and that we can be partners in the school district, not the enemy. Thank you all so much.
Mark Fury, I'm looking forward to the new board, trying to work together. That would be fabulous. But I just want to maybe speak on behalf, there's very few conservatives that really have the guts to come up here and talk. Okay, and when you talk about the charter school, and if you saw the faces of the teachers that left this room last week and the lack of support that they are perceiving, they're afraid, those teachers are afraid to speak up here. The students that go to that school are afraid to speak up here, and they're not being heard. And so I just hope that you guys supported a charter school and stop putting roadblocks and say, how are we going to make it successful? And then, if it doesn't become successful, then you can start to change it. But the public outside, in my group, is hearing the word out there that the new liberal board wants to kill the charter school. And I hope that's not true. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public comments, and now we are at general functions. And so we need a motion for 17.1.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 Board of Education meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Blades, a second by Mrs. Buck. Are there any comments?
I just had one comment that I would like, we have an LCAP time attached to one of our board meetings. I'd like to set aside some separate time to go through LCAP because we'll be looking at ours as well as OCSCS. So making sure we have enough dedicated time to look at that. So a separate one would be great.
And I also had a question. You mentioned a workshop, and I don't see that on this proposed schedule. Do you have a thought about when you want to do that?
There's a couple study sessions. When I say workshop, it's a board study session, so it's a public meeting. One would be on board goals, and the other would be on budget. And so I think both of those should happen before March. What I can do if the board is amenable is have Annette look at the calendar if there's an interest in those study sessions and poll the board on availability.
I think that would be a really good idea to have some possible dates and send out to the board so that everybody can be there and it will be acceptable. I was looking at the calendar because I also was concerned that we didn't have enough time last year to do the LCAP, and now we have to do OCSCS's LCAP as well. So I was kind of looking at April 22nd. We're at spring break the week before, April 14th through 18th. How do you
We
guys?
do have to make sure that Principal Fisher is also available too, so we'd have to coordinate with her.
Well, right now, the LCAP review study session is on the 8th, so this would be a regular board meeting.
So you want to do the OCSCS during a regular board meeting or before?
Oh, yeah, which one?
Okay, so the LCAP review study session right now is on the calendar for April 8th.
Right.
So we have to do our districts and OCSCSs. And I'm just proposing another date on the 22nd that we would have like our regular board meeting. So we would take care of the LCAP.
Oh, so not two.
So,
I thought you were asking to
thought
move
you
the
were asking
LCAP.
to move
and
the
then do
LCAP to
a
22nd.
normal meeting.
so,
Okay.
Or we could reverse it. It doesn't,
Either one?
either way works. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about that.
Maybe we could do some calendar search
Same
and
thing
then
with
bring
the
it back with an updated
I mean,
board
obviously
agenda.
not spring break.
I mean, board minute.
Yeah, the spring
meeting
break
schedule.
is the 14th, it's
Yeah.
the week before. So it'd be like a board meeting, spring break, and then another board meeting.
Yeah,
So,
let's
Yeah,
so you
let's
guys,
look at the calendar.
so you guys want to,
That might impact your school.
okay, so let's
Look at the calendar?
look at the calendar and have Mrs. Newton send us out some dates for a possible date, and then we can update the board schedule at the January meeting.
I would also, if we're going to do that, it might be advantageous to actually have the LCAP be that second meeting, just so that it doesn't have to be a Tuesday regular meeting. So we could do any day of the week and not have an issue there.
We usually do regular meeting for the LCAP study session.
Right, no, I'm just saying, but if we're going to have an additional meeting.
Yeah. So,
We could
do
Mrs.
like
Young,
one day.
Dr. Young, you'd
Yeah.
prefer that later in the month?
Yeah,
for
that
the
would be
LCAP?
great. In the past, when we held two separate meetings in April, the LCAP study session was the latter one. Gives us
Okay.
a little more time.
Okay. Okay, so.
Perfect.
And then just as we bring back the workshops on budget, just making sure that we're past the January budget through the governor and all of that, so that we're not replicating another meeting.
Yeah, we'd like to know what he's planning first.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knows sometimes,
Good question.
Well, we'll find out in January.
Yep.
Okay.
but it could always change in.
February.
Okay, so we have, is there any more discussion before we
Are we
call
gonna
for the
let
vote?
people have outbursts?
What?
So maybe we approve it as this, but we give direction to bring it back as another calendar as well
Additional
for
dates.
addition.
Yep.
So we're not approving it. We should approve it and then
Yeah.
bring that back.
I think we should approve it, but should we amend it to come? to
Just bring
add-
it back.
To bring it back.
Carrie,
Yes.
tell her the language to say.
I
You
don't
had
know what
good
the
language
language
right
is.
there, yeah.
We're going to approve it today and bring it back at the next meeting to add in additional meetings related to workshop and LCAP.
Perfect.
What she said, I'll second.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we're ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, it sounds like we have a
Plan.
plan and any opposed, I guess I should say. I figured we were unified in that. And Luke, and an aye from our student board member, because he loves to come to our meetings. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Want a motion?
We need a motion for 17.2 for the Orange County Committee on School District Organization.
I'll make a motion that the nominating representative of the Orange County Committee on School Organization will be, elect Marilyn Anderson as the district's nominating representative to the Orange County Committee on School District Organization, and elect Tricia Quintero as the alternate. You would need a second.
I'll second.
And the reason that I did this, that I nominated Marilyn is because she did it last year. It's literally one meeting and you got to
think I did it
OCSBA
for
to
4
turn it.
years.
I think you did it before that
I did
too.
it like all 4 years. It's like one
One
vote.
thing.
One
One
thing.
meeting.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with that, will Mrs. Anderson doing that
Yeah,
again?
I'm fine doing that. Works out very conveniently. And is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looks like motion carries. We have a 5-0 vote and an aye from our student board member. Okay. Now we're to business services. Do we have a motion for 18.1?
Sorry, I'm getting my next page.
I'll make a motion to accept the annual independent audit report for the 23-24 fiscal year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Blades and a second by Mr. Frazier. And I'll turn the time over to
Mr. Stein.
Mr. Stein, who will introduce this item.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Anderson, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Chernus, members of cabinet, and our friends and staff members in the audience. Per the requirements of Education Code, districts are required to undergo an annual audit, which is performed by an independent audit firm. This report must be presented to the board by January 31st each year, and it covers the financial data for the preceding fiscal year, so 23-24. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome up Ms. Jessica Berry with our audit firm, Nigro & Nigro, who will be sharing the results of our 23-24 annual financial audit. Ms. Berry is a certified public accountant and a partner with the firm and specializes in the audit and accounting requirements for K-12 school districts. Ms. Berry, welcome.
Thank you. And then this is one life. Yes, sounds like it. Thank you for the introduction. As was said, my name is Jessica Berry. I'm a partner with Nigro & Nigro. For presentations, I usually just do a brief overview of our process for the annual audit and then kind of highlights of what's in the report. And then I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you'd like me to dig into more detail in any particular areas. So as far as our process, as we're conducting the audit, this is really going on throughout the fiscal year. Starts beginning of the calendar year and kind of works its way all the way through eventually to the audit report. So we're starting in kind of spring from now, and we start with what we call our site visits. We're looking at attendance and ASB procedures when we go out to the individual sites. So we pull a sample of your school sites on a rotating basis. We look at their attendance taking procedures, and then for the schools with ASBs, we also look at their cash handling procedures, their expenditures, their receipting, making sure they have proper checks and balances at those ASBs. The attendance side, obviously a large amount of your funding is driven by your attendance that's reported, and so we want to make sure you have proper controls over attendance taking at your individual school sites. Fast forward a little bit, we come back out kind of in spring or summer, depending on the districts. And at that point, we're working with business services here at the actual district office and some with educational services, a few different departments. And we're looking at, again, controls and compliance, but over quite a variety of areas. At that point in time, your books aren't closed for the year, so we're not looking at final financial numbers, but we're making sure for your expenditures that you have proper pre-approvals, that there's proper documentation. For money coming in, there's timely deposits, again, proper documentation trails that we can trace back. We also look at a variety of state compliance. That can be anything from looking at expenditure for a certain program to make sure it's allowable, posting notices by certain dates, some of the after-school programs. There's a lot of different things in state compliance that we're required to look at. And then we also look at federal compliance on a rotating sample of programs. So we look at different programs each year, and we'll kind of circle through and make sure we're hitting your different main federal programs and look at compliance over those as well. Fast forward again, we come back in the fall. At this point, your books are closed for the year. We're past the June 30th fiscal year end, so we're really looking at final financial numbers. This is where we dig in on the financial side. We're working through your unaudited actuals, and we're tying out the numbers in those unaudited actuals to documentation. This can be tracing your cash balances to county cash confirmations, tracing accounts payable to invoices, things like that, but kind of working our way through those unaudited actuals to make sure they're presented fairly. All of that leads to a lovely audit report that you would have received. Not the most fun reading in the world, I admit, and I actually write these, but I'm saying they're a little bit on the dry side, but I'll kind of give you the highlights as you go through. Very, very opening after the table of contents is our opinion letter. This is a clean or unmodified opinion. So what you're looking for is saying that we agree that the financial statements as presented here are presented fairly in all material aspects. That's what that opening letter is. Once you get past that letter, there's about, from pages about 4 to 11 or so, is the management's discussion and analysis. So what this is really just shortened versions of the financial statements, but it presents a 2-year history, so current year as well as prior year. And you can kind of see what went up, what went down in different areas with some very brief general explanations of that. So I think it's a good kind of cliff notes, so to speak, of the rest of the audit report that's presented in those pages. Move past that, you've got your main financial statements. These are all laid out in detail. You have government-wide as well as the fund financial statements, which are going to line up more similar to what you would be normally looking at with budgets, things like that. And then the bulk of the audit report is really notes, required disclosures that we have to put in there. That's where the dry reading comes in. Lots of notes on pension, OPEB, any type of debt have a lot of required disclosures. So that's what really the bulk in the middle is of the audit reports. And then toward the end, additional schedules on debt. And then there's a few kind of interesting schedules. There'll be your average daily attendance for the year will be presented there, your instructional minutes by grade level, a schedule of your expenditures for your federal awards throughout the year. So those are kind of the ones that are tending to be a little bit more interesting toward the back. And then we've got opinion letters after that. So the first one is really the overall financial audit opinion. The ones in the back, there's 3, one on governmental auditing standards and then a state and a federal. So that's what those are laid out. And then any findings or management comments are presented at the very end after that, as well as any follow-up on previous year findings if there were any there. So again, that's a very quick overview of what's in an audit report. More than happy to dig in, answer any specific questions, or go into more detail in any area.
Can you talk a little bit about the findings, please?
Sure. So way in the back here, when you get into findings, you guys wound up this year with 2 that are both non-financial impact findings. These are both related to state compliance areas that we look at. The first one, make sure I'm doing them in order here. First one was really just the date on a notice being posted. So there's requirements of when you have to have certain notices posted in advance of meetings. And this one, it was a 10-day requirement. It wound up getting posted 7 days, so it was just a couple days late on the posting. No financial impact on that particular one. Next one is ELOP ratio. So this is actually a new program under audit this year. So this is the first year it's being audited for any school district. Again, non-financial finding on this one, it's just having documentation on certain ratios. This is, I will say, probably the most common audit finding that our firm has written this year. This has been an extremely common one. Some of the difficulty has been there's always been a 20-to-1 ratio for the ACES program that a lot of districts already operated. When they implemented ELOP, they added an additional 10-to-1 ratio if you had kinder or TK, so it really switched, because now you can't really look at it program-wide. You have to look at it by individual groups because there's 2 different ratios in play. And so there's a lot of adjustments that district has to do kind of on their documentation side of that one. So again, non-financial, that one's been a very, very common finding that we've written this year. Those are the 2 findings, correct.
Anybody else have any questions?
I did. So the ASB findings you had in the back related to the recommendations for bank reconciliations and all that. I know we've discussed a new program to monitor and manage all the ASB funds. Has that been put in place as of now? Because I know this is previous year.
Yeah, it's been put in place. And again, this is 23-24, so, you know, but yet that is in place, and we're working with staff at all of the sites to make sure that they're implementing the guidance from our auditors.
I just want to follow up with that question. It seems like ASB comes up every year with findings, and I'm not dishing on you, Luke. But I just, and I know we've talked about trainings and things like that. What else can we do to help the schools so that we can get our ASBs in line?
Well, I think the software implementation that's been put in place now to manage, like basically an accounting software, that wasn't in place before, that I think Gary can speak to that.
Yeah, so it's a combination of more oversight. We are providing training. We need to do that probably more often. So, right, if you do training once a year, staff members tend to, they forget throughout the year, and as things, and school sites are very busy. We all know that. And there's a lot of rush to get things done. And so I think reinforcement, making sure that we're doing audits, which I know our team does throughout the year. We'll pull records and look at them, and then we'll follow up with school sites if we notice any discrepancies or anything that we're concerned about. So I think following along with that, but more training, more often, maybe in shorter bursts rather than having somebody sit in a room for 4 to 6 hours and learn something. But And I think that the team has a plan for that.
Okay, thank you. I think that would really be helpful. We have a lot of new principals and a lot of new assistant principals in all of our high schools and middle schools. So just so we can get ahead of it so we don't have this problem again. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Thank you to Jeff Nigro, our partner that we've been working with, and their staff for their thoughtful work and the completion of our annual financial audit. I'd also want to extend a thanks to our fiscal services and business services team for their efforts working to get all the data and everything ready for this. So we recommend, their staff recommends that the report be accepted as presented.
Okay. I too would like to thank everybody in your office for all their hard work, and I know this is kind of like a final for your team, so thank you. So thank you, guys. Okay, with no more comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like we have a 5-0 with an aye from our student board member. Motion is carried.
18.2.
Okay.
I'll make motion. I to approve the 2024-25 first interim report with a positive certification. A positive certification indicates that based upon current projections, the district will meet in its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and subsequent 2 fiscal years.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Blade, a second by Mr. Frazier. I'll turn the time over to Mr. Stein.
Thank you for the opportunity to stand up. I really appreciate that. Thank you and good evening again. How do I get over there, Jeremy? Just press the button. There we go. Good evening. Tonight we're going to go over or review our 24-25 first interim report. This is the first official revision to the district's adopted budget. The report contains actual financial data through October 31st of this year, as well as revised revenue and expenditure projections based on the latest information we have available. The agenda for tonight, we're going to talk about the state's economic outlook. We will get into the first interim report. We want to touch base on how the district has adapted to changes in overall shortfalls and revenue streams. We'll also talk about budget challenges, where we're at, and plans for 25-26. And then, of course, we'll talk about where we're going to next. So, the LAO is the Legislative Analyst Office. It's a nonpartisan agency that provides fiscal advice to the legislature. They produce an economic outlook each year, along with a number of other reports. But this report that they provide in November is what the governor's office really bases their initial January budget proposal on, or they included in there. So we want to share some of that information with you tonight. And I know you can all read this, and so Jeremy called me down earlier today, like, you can't read this slide. So that's true. So the common theme that runs through this entire report is that the revenues are running ahead of the broader economy. So don't worry about it. I zoomed in to make sure we could all look at it. So for the next couple slides, the purple dots that you see on here they represent the first and second quarter of 2024. So that's this current year. The orange dot would be what our historical average is for the state. And so what you can see in this portion of the graphic is that the total pay to workers in the state is outpacing our historical average, which is good news. So higher income being reported. However, if you look at business owner income, we're trailing that in the first and second quarter, as well as we have fewer payroll jobs that are being reported. So we're seeing a little bit of a discrepancy between the revenues and what we're seeing in the general economy. So continuing that trend, hopefully did I skip one? No. My slides are off. Okay. The same trend, unemployment, we're seeing higher unemployment than what our average is. And then also our taxable sales are below what our historic average is. So what does this all mean? It means that the economy is really bumping along, right? The money's coming into the state. The revenues that the state is reporting they're higher than what they projected. But you got to remember that the governor's budget projected a significant decrease in the amount of revenues coming to the state. So the fact that it's coming in a little higher is normal, or that's what we would hope for. The state revenues are projected to be higher, but there are some things that are contributing to this trend. So when we look at the broader economy, the stock market in California, because of our population, really drives a lot of our income growth and our taxes. And so when the Federal Reserve started adjusting the interest rates to curb inflation, that has a huge impact on California, because that's where a lot of our money comes from stock market growth. So as they increase interest rates, stock market, it falters a little bit. But what we've seen over the last few months, as the inflation is cooling, the feds are reducing the interest rates a little bit. Stock market loves that, so you're seeing a very strong, robust stock market. So if you're in there, you're happy right now. And so we're hoping that continues. And from what we're hearing, the feds are planning to continue to reduce the interest rates over the next couple of months. So with that, that's good news, and we hope for that. Now, I'm not going to ask you to read these slides, and I'm not going to go through these graphs on this slide. But the point in adding this is that the state budget itself is in a deficit spending pattern, the same pattern that the majority, if not all, school districts, most school districts are in for the current year and the next year. And a lot of that has to do with declining enrollment and also the low COLAs the state has been providing to school districts for the LCFF. So just wanted to point out that the state is in a deficit spending pattern. When we talk about what the LAO thinks is going to happen with the budget and where the governor is going to go with it, they believe that a majority of the increased revenues that they're seeing are going to be used to offset the withdrawal that they took from the rainy day fund. And they did that in June, or July, I should say, really to help pay for the LCFF money that they did give us, which is, again, a measly 1.07%, and we'll talk about that later. But they had to take money out of the rainy day fund to do that. So the LAO believes that the state will end up depositing most of that money back. The net result that they're projecting right now is that the Prop 98 guarantee, which is what drives most of our funding in K-12, would grow by 1.3%, which is not very much. And then they're expecting, though, that the legislature will be left over with $2.8 billion for new commitments. So what can they do with that? There's a potential. Right now, we do have some deferrals where we have payments the district gets in July instead of June. So it's one of these kind of a shuffleboard thing that they do with the state to try to make one year look better than the next year's by moving our payment by a month. It doesn't really affect districts, so they do that a lot. They could eliminate that. The other option is they could provide more one-time money to districts, or actually create some other ongoing things that they need. So with that, we're hoping that they apply it to LCFF. So that's our goal. So we want to talk about some of the considerations for first interim. When we look at the overall budget, there are no real significant changes to the state's adopted budget. What they proposed in May really is what they followed through with in July, and they haven't modified it since then. Some things have changed here, though. So for Placentia-Yorba Linda, our enrollment appears to be stabilizing, and that's very good news. But it's and to be fair, and I'll touch on that a little bit about what we're seeing around the county. But our enrollment for the first time, and I don't know, well, since I think 2017-18, which I'll show you a graph in a little bit, is stabilizing, meaning we didn't lose any students. We gained actually 22 students this year, which is great. The attendance rates are increasing. So we're making an assumption of 95%, where before we were around 94, went to 94.95, 95%. So thank you, parents, for sending your kids to school. We need them in school. That's how we get, that's how we fund everything that we do. So please keep doing that. So those are some of the things that have changed. Now, what I want to talk about is this trend that we're seeing. So this is actually a graph of PYL data. A group called Edunomics actually produced reports for all of these school districts in Orange County. And what they wanted to highlight is that as the federal government starts reducing the amount of money that the one-time money that they're giving to schools, they wanted to basically highlight what's going on with staffing, right, versus what we're doing, what's happening with enrollment. And so the blue line that you're seeing on the slide is our enrollment that from 2017, 18 through now. I added the last two dots, so if you're wondering why they were so sloppy and they put the dots off to I did that. So I wanted to keep the trend. I wanted to make sure that we're showing, okay, where are we now versus where this slide ends up. So what you'll see is that while we have a significant decline, and so that you see the blue arrow over there, the 2,717 students have declined, but we've increased 349 staff members, okay, at that same time. And there's a lot of reasons for this. The two main reasons are that we have been flooded with one-time money, and from both the state and the federal government. And along with that, they've created new programs. The expanded learning program, which is fantastic, but it needs a lot of people. So we've had to hire people to do that. So this doesn't correlate with funding. It correlates with how many kids we're serving and our staffing. And so, but it's important that we need to remember that we hire staff to provide services to students and families. And those services, they rely on them, and they're important. And so we need to make sure that we remember that. But the challenge that this creates is that it creates a structural deficit for the district in the long run. And so there's an imbalance there and that needs to be adjusted. And as the state starts drying up all of the one-time money they've been giving us, and I'll talk about the COVID-19 money in a few slides. But as that happens, we do need to figure out what we're going to do, what services we're going to provide, and how to adjust. So with all that background, I'm going to start talking about numbers. So this is the standard slide that we include every time. Explains what the purpose of the first interim report is. We bring to the board the financial report 3 times a year, right? So we do our adopted budget, we do first interim, second interim. First interim, these are at every one of these interim cycles, the district needs to certify whether or not we can make our payments, basically pay our bills for the current year and the next 2 years. If we can do that, then we're in a positive certification, and that's what we recommend. So when we talk about our multi-year projections and some of the factors that we have in there or built in, what you can see on the slide is that our current year for 24-25, our statutory COLA provided to LCFF is 1.07%, very low. The out years are 2.93 and 3.08. The enrollment, what you'll see is because of the trends, and I'll show you the trends in another slide, we're assuming flat enrollment because something has changed in how we're enrolled. We were losing 300 some kids, then we lost less than that, and then we're actually, looks like we're bottoming out, and there's a reason why, well, it's not just us, I guess, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. We are assuming a higher attendance rate because we are seeing that, and the net result of that are these figures that you see on the screen. So, enrollment, let's talk about this for a second. I keep saying stabilizing, that's what it looks like. What I will tell you is that it appears that there are 4 to 6 other districts in Orange County that are experiencing the same thing. So when we meet as CBOs every month, and as we're looking over the attendance in 23-24, and as we go into this current year, there are a number of the districts in Orange County that appear to be like we're hitting the bottom of the trough, and it had to happen at some point, right? And so it looks like for PYL that we're there, like it looks like, and what this means is that we'll probably be, and I'll call it stagnant enrollment moving forward for the next few years, meaning you might lose a little, you might gain a little, but I don't know if we'll see steep drops like we saw before. And so, because this is, again, a trend that it's not just us. If it was a fluke and it was us, I would say, no, we got to plan for the worst case scenario. It's more than us. More districts in Orange County are seeing this, and specifically the ones that are similarly situated to PYL. So that's why it's there. So I want to point that out. Now, with all that said, this is where the rubber meets the road. So the last couple of budget reports that I've done, we've been projecting that the district would be deficit spending by around $9.6 million. That has grown to 12.4. And so let me see, get to my notes. So included in the estimates that you see here, we've closed a lot of vacancies, vacant positions that we've had. We have factored in here that we will stop backfilling when people retire. So as moving out all the out years, as people retire, we will not be backfilling those positions. And part of that has to do with that gap that we need to address. We've increased our assumptions for interest revenue from the county because as the interest rates have been, they're better at the county level, so we're earning more there. And then we've also suspended the textbook adoption transfer. It's $2.2 million a year for for the years you see on here for 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27. To be fair, we have around $15 million in that fund right now for the textbook adoption, so there's plenty in there to do the textbook adoption. We just need to start making that contribution again in 27, 28. So I've mentioned in previous presentations that districts having a deficit, number one, is normal right now with how the economy and everything's going. Number two is that this district is uniquely situated to be able to withstand this for now, meaning you have a lot of reserves. We have quite a bit in order to help the district make it through this rough period, but we still need to make adjustments.
Mr. Stein?
Yes.
A few things I want to add here. First of all, Jeremy, can you share that slide so you see context of where we are with our budget? So the projected deficit by the end of this year at first interim would be 59 point. No, could you actually zoom out so we could see the whole thing? So should we, under this projection, end the year at $59.5 million, the reserves for unrestricted reserve would be 22.7%, which is still a very healthy reserve. If you look at the last 5 years, that's right in the middle of where we are. So in our beginning fund balance was $47.8 million, a 23% reserve in 2021, $50 million, a 20% reserve in 21-22, $55 million, a 24% reserve in 22-23, $66 million. So you saw it's gone up in the last 3 years to where our beginning fund balance this year was $72 million. This is what we hope is the worst case is ending the year at 22.7% reserve. There are other factors that we think will potentially increase our ending fund balance, including the COLA, which we're hearing could increase for 25-26, which will help our out years. So I just want you to see, yes, we are deficit spending this year, but in context, we are, even if we deficit spend like we project, we're right in line where we've been the last 5 years. So that's important. The sky is not falling. We do need to look at specifically positions, and Mr. Stein will talk about that have been funded from one-time money that are being shifted to the general fund, which explains this deficit this year. So with that, I'll let Mr. Stein continue.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, so the components of our ending fund balance are shown on screen here. As you can see, the overall fund balance is $108 million. 60.5 of that is unrestricted and 47.6 is restricted. I should have pointed out that I don't have that listed here. So our unrestricted, a lot of our deficit spending, we're deficit spending in unrestricted, but we're also very much spending down all of the one-time money. So you see that on the financial reports as well. So despite the deficit, as Dr. Chernis pointed out, our ending fund balance is still very healthy. Our reserves are very healthy. But again, we don't want to gamble with that. We want to make sure that we're making those adjustments, and so we will. This next slide provides an overview of all the other district funds and their ending fund balance. Now, what I want to point out is that we have a number of projects currently in the works. things we've talked to the board about whose expenditures are had not hit by October 31st. So these obviously will change. It's a moving target as we go through the year. So, as mentioned earlier, we're required to certify our financial condition for first interim. There are 3 types. Positive means that we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent years. Staff recommends that we certify as positive. So now that we've talked about the budget, we're going to talk about some of the challenges which we've already kind of touched on, but we'll dig into a little bit more. One of the things is we need to prioritize staffing funded from one-time money that are now have been shifted over the general fund, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We have a structural deficit. That means that if nothing is done, it will continue and it will be a problem. So this is not a one-time thing. We need to make adjustments for that. We have projected low COLA for the next 3 years. We have heard that the state is looking at a higher COLA for 25-26, which would be fantastic for our 25-26 budget, but it won't adjust our 24-25 where we end up at the end of the year. But I'll talk more about that later. We need to continue to focus on attendance. Please keep sending the kids to school. 95% is great, but it's still not where PYL was. Like, we're happy 95%, but that's embarrassing, and that we have 95% of kids. That 5% of our kids are missing on any given day. So please keep sending the kids to school. And then obviously we have increasing employment costs as well. So we're going to talk about one-time positions. So COVID-19, regardless of how anybody feels about it, the funding came in a huge wave to school districts. What we did with that, and what most districts did, is 2 things. One, we expanded a lot of services, and these are critically needed services, and so we hired a lot of people. All of that money ended as of September 30th, 2024, so a couple months ago. With that money being gone, we have people working, right? So you can't just make that shift right away. So a lot of these costs have been shifted to the general fund. So what that means is that this one-time money that was covering it, now it's moved over to our unrestricted money, and it's part of that $12 million deficit that you're seeing, okay? So these things need to be evaluated. We need to prioritize them and figure out what we're going to do moving forward. Let me make sure I'm covering all my notes. So again, it's very important that we know that these are people, these are important services, and we need to make sure we carefully evaluate that.
So to reiterate, the next 2 slides, what you're seeing is one of the main reasons of this deficit that you see is these are positions that were funded from one-time money that are now being shifted into the general fund, unrestricted. And it's a lot of positions, and so that's one of the reasons that we see this deficit. And so you see 4.5 million. The next slide, you'll see about 10 million.
So further, so we've shifted staffing. A lot of times when we get one-time money, you're able to hire positions or shift funding for positions off to the one-time funding, freeing up general fund, and then that's used to hire more, right? The key is that we need to make adjustments when the one-time funding goes away. So again, we will need to evaluate what services and positions that we have and make sure that we are still addressing the needs of our constituents and addressing district priorities.
This is an important slide because these positions are critically important to make our district amazing. You go to the sites, you talk to the principals about how they feel about their ASTs. They're critically important. These teachers are out of the class doing intervention. We have amazing teachers on special assignment that are doing a lot of work that most districts either wouldn't do or would have to hire administrators to do. So we're not suggesting it by any means that these positions need to go away. What we're showing is these are the positions that are either were funded out of one-time money or are positions that are outside of the classroom that are contributing to the deficit.
Okay, So to wrap up, we're going to look at our budget steps. So we're at first interim, and so once we're done with that, we have our mid-year LCAP update in February. That'll happen at the February meeting. Then we have our second interim in March already, and then we get right back into LCAP season and public hearings and the adopted budget for 25-26. So right now it's this nonstop run up until June. And so, but during that whole time, we're developing the LCAP along with our constituents and the board. And so we'll be bringing that back as well. Now, before I apologize for my long presentation, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our fiscal services and business teams for their hard work putting together the first interim report. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. So PYLUSD has an amazing administrative services team, the best I've ever seen. I've been very blessed to work with such talented people. A huge thank you to them for the many hours, the dedication, and most of all for putting up with me for the past year and a half. They deserve a medal for that. But they have really been a blessing to me, and I'll cherish them. But again, thank you for the board, for this team, for giving me this team of gifted individuals. So thank you very much. And I'll take questions if you have any.
One question about, you mentioned the attendance rate and the COLAs. These are conservative assumptions that we're making, right? This is not, I mean, these aren't final numbers, obviously, because we haven't got to the end of the year, but these 95% is a conservative attendance rate.
95% is a realistic percentage,
Okay.
yes.
Because that's, well, previously it was 97? Is that what
You
we-
mean in the glory days
Yeah,
of
yeah.
attendance?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would
Prior
be,
to 2020,
it depends
yeah.
on high school or elementary. Elementary is usually in the 97s, and
Yeah.
then high school and middle school is a little bit
96,
less.
Mr. Stein, though, to that question regarding COLA.
Yes.
If the governor does come in with what potentially we're hearing is 4%, what would be the implications to our budget?
So if the governor's budget comes in with a 4% COLA for 25-26, I mean, if we just look at the numbers real quick, the net result would be, let me go back, the net, because we're assuming 2.93, so it's a 1.07% increase to that, so it's about $3 million. And so basically it would shift, it would take $3 million off of, if everything else remains equal, it would take $3 million off of that deficit. But what'll happen is in 27-28, it creates a new bench for 26-27 and 27-28. So we would be climbing out of the deficit a lot faster if we have that extra percent.
So we're going to get to the next steps or the next budget coming up, but we added new programs this year,
Yes.
OCSES and USI, and we made an investment to do that. Can you talk about what kind of investment that was and how that impacted this budget?
So the investments with regard to the infrastructure, or are we talking about staffing?
Both.
Okay, so infrastructure-wise, that money would have been, it was used out of developer fees, so you won't see that in this. You'd see that more on the next slide that shows all the others, all the other funds. So Fund 25 is where that would have been paid out of. But you know, with new programs comes new staffing, and so there would be a lot of hiring that took place for both programs that would be factored in here.
So my recommendation is, as part of the study session, is to bring the cost for all programs, all alternative programs, the charter school, USI, the virtual school, Parkview, all El Camino, just bring all the staffing, all the costs for everything as part of that conversation.
The workshop we do with budget?
Yeah, so likely in February.
In the timeline, yeah, I was going to ask. So in the timeline, Gary, it shows that second interim is coming in March?
Yes.
Yeah. So we try and do that workshop before the second interim. Okay.
I mean, you can.
After the governor says, but before the second interim.
Yeah, the governor comes out usually the second week of January. So sometime between then and ideally by mid-February, we can have a budget study session.
Yeah, because it affects the revenues, but the expenditures are there, right? So it's not like you can't talk about those. So, yeah.
And can we talk, so BVVA, we've been getting a few emails this week about it. Is it true that there's only 10 enrolled in K through 6, was it, they said?
That I'm not sure. I need my
Are
colleagues
we down to
opine.
10 students? So we've seen a lot of decline in there.
In the K to 5 program,
yes.
I believe we're down to 11.
11?
In Buena Vista, yes.
Okay. And then high school?
I can pull that up for you right now. At the middle school, we have 22 at Buena Vista, and at the high school, 73. So that's a total of 106 students at Buena Vista.
While you have that up, can you tell us how many are at OCSCS and how many are at USI?
Sure. USI, I have up, and that's 12 TK5, 44 at the middle school, and 28 at the high, for a total of 84. And then OCSES, give me a moment. OCSES has a total of 740 students.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to say I've tried to not, I had a student call me today who I'm responsible for, and he tried to get me to call him out of class, and I said no.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure.
You kind of discussed a little bit about what factors have contributed to the deficit growing to 12 million. When we started our budget, what we approved was a deficit of 9 million. So we've seen kind of an increase in just the first quarter. Can you tell us what basically the factors have been to that?
Yes. So if I go back to that initial really ugly slide, there you go. Let me go back. I mean, I find it beautiful, but it's an ugly slide. So
They used to call it like an alligator or something.
it's definitely an alligator chart, that's for sure. So if we go back here, the difference you're seeing, so if you look at 23-24 and 24-25, it's staffing. So the 85 to 90% of the district's budget is people and benefits, and so this is where you're going to see the biggest change there. So there were some things that were built into the budget in July that didn't come to fruition. And so we have more staffing than planned.
Is this considered staffing increase due to the preschools and the TK expansion, or is it something else?
So the TK, yes, I mean that will always impact it. The preschools are funded out of a different fund, right?
Okay.
So that would not be in our general fund. But yes, TK would impact, and as well as what Mrs. Buck asked about staffing at new programs as well.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Staffing at new programs, like so staffing at
the charter and at USI?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, we got rid of combo classes at several of our schools. A lot of it's class size. We added a lot of sections at the high schools. Rather than hiring people, we hired sections. So there's a lot of reasons. Plus, the 9 million and the 12 million, again, you're going to see fluctuations based on once estimated actuals come in, so they're projections. But in general, our class size is the primary driver. And so we hit where we have lower class sizes right now is at our high schools. And so our high schools, we spend a lot more money to have lower class sizes than the elementary, where it's set at 24-1 or 29-1.
Okay. Mr. Stein, do you have any recommendations to address this as we move forward through the school year and for next, besides eliminating, you talked about not rehiring teachers. Is there any other suggestions that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's, so anytime you're dealing with a deficit or a structural deficit, I mean, you've got position control that we need to make sure is maintained, that we make sure that every position has a dedicated funding stream before we fill it. We need to evaluate every vacated position to make sure that it's still needed, and then eliminate where possible. Any categorical funded programs need to be self-sustaining. And as Dr. Chernus mentioned, class sizes are huge, right? So we need to make sure that our class sizes are to the negotiated number that we have with Apple, and that that we aren't adding new things right now. So we're in a position to where the district is to where we don't have the luxury of really adding anything. We need to be looking at how to cut back what we've got.
We also need to look at the number of positions that are now encumbered by the general fund. So,
right,
as we shared before, $5 million worth of positions that prior budgets did not encumber the unrestricted general fund now do. And so that's that one slide, if you want to go back to there, Jeremy. One of the reasons for the structural deficit is all these positions were not in the general unrestricted fund last year. So now they are, because we can't use one-time money. So we need to look at all these positions that we're now funding and prioritize.
So in these assumptions, are we assuming that any current vacant positions would be filled prior to end of year, or are we assuming that they are not?
No, we closed them.
Well, we closed them?
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
so that's not a factor?
That's not a factor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just anyone that becomes vacant moving forward, we need to evaluate every single one of them.
Yeah. Do we have an estimate of retirees for this year yet?
Not yet, no.
What was our assumption, 25?
25.
That we built into the budget?
Yeah, 25 is built in. Yeah.
We built in an assumption of not replacing 25.
Yes.
Because we get about 25 retirees a year.
Okay, and then are we looking at alternative sources of funding for these positions? I mean, I know that these are very valuable positions, especially
That's a great question, actually. I just had a light bulb because Mrs. Gray has been working on things. But we have CYBHI. Sorry, I'm going to just start talking about it and jump in when you want. The Community Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. We've been meeting with the vendor basically it has a potential for the district to be reimbursed for services we already provide. So there's a lot of things we do with our nurses and our psychologists and counselors that basically we could be being reimbursed from the state for all those services that we are not right now. And so that would be one of our main drivers. And I know Mrs. Gray's been working on that with a vendor. There will be something coming to the board in the next month or two, a contract with a vendor to help us automate all of this to make it a lot easier on staff to report it so that we can get that reimbursement. But that would be directly for some of the mental health and wellness staffing.
So we are entitled to reimbursement for that, and we're just not
We
processing
are,
it?
but we don't have the ability. None of the districts throughout the state have the ability to really bill the way that the state wants. This
specific
program
plan.
gives us some seed money that we can use to hire and build the processes and pay for the software so that we're up to speed to be able to do that billing. And they've provided that as a grant that we get through OCDE, the Orange County Department of Ed, where we can basically use that to help build that program, train the staff, have everybody ready to go to start billing. We can bill, but there's not a district out there right now that has the infrastructure to do so. Yeah.
Mrs. Gray, is this related to Cal Optima or Cal AIM or any of the community supports?
No, it's not related to it. Actually, we're already doing this in special ed. So we're doing billing right now, and we go through Paradigm, and a lot of our special education staff is billing for the services they already provide. And so what's happening is this is just expanding. And so the state is looking at expanding this to general educators, namely anyone with a pupil personnel services credential. So that's your counselors, your wellness specialists, your mental health clinicians. They all hold that credential. And so they're trying to teach districts how to do third-party payments, and so they can bill for what they already provide, just like special ed.
Oh, that's great. Do you have an rough estimate of the revenue that is potential to our district?
It's very, very, very rough, but it's very, very, very positive. So I'd hate to give you a number, but it is. It's very positive. So that's that, and so you asked what the
Over a
alternative.
million?
It's at a
Oh,
point,
yeah.
it's at a
Oh,
point where
well,
I'm like, I don't
well.
believe it.
Under
right?
10 million?
But
Well, Cal Aim and Cal Optima did the same
It's
for.
very positive, but I don't want to, I mean, I'd rather, we, you know, as
We're not jinxing
as Gary
this.
said, let's present this so you can see it and really get an understanding. We have all the return
Yes.
on investment.
But to answer your question, yes, we are looking at alternative sources. This is one that could be really big for us.
Yeah.
How
But
many
it's-
of these positions that are listed in the full-time that's now being absorbed by general budget would be covered by that billing service? In any of these?
Yes.
Awesome.
I had a question.
That's great.
With the special ed services, I know the parents kind of have to sign off permission to bill the state. Is that program going to be the same way, or is it automatic?
Yes, so there is an enrollment piece, but that's the key. I mean, there's going to need to be a lot of communication. I think that it would be very beneficial for the board to hear from this vendor directly, so if they were to come and actually share that with the public. The system is designed to be very user-friendly, integrated with Aries to where during the enrollment, standard enrollment, there would be extra questions asked and things like that. We already collect a lot of this information, but we're not collecting it for the purpose of using it. Right? So we talk a lot about, insurance and those kind of things. But we don't do anything with that data unless they're in sports. So now it just changes the dynamic of that, and it's all wrapped in and very integrated so that it's easier for parents to use to basically sign up for services. But it allows us, so if we're gonna ask students, send out a survey to see how they're doing, to just do a test to say, hey, are you feeling good today? Are you feeling? It allows us the ability to do that, but that counts for reimbursement. So those kind of things where we're touching base with kids, it incentivizes us to reach out and actually really get more involved with the mental health aspect. So it's a good thing.
So
And I
one
just
one
want-
question, just to reiterate, the reason that we aren't currently doing it is because it's such a, let's call it a bureaucratic nightmare to get it done.
Well, I mean,
The billing-
do we have any people that work in the insurance industry? Because I'm not going to say anything bad.
I
but-
actually used to work in insurance, believe it or not.
Yeah,
So-
billing insurance is.
Yeah.
And we tease her all the
It's
time.
tough.
Yeah.
No, it is a new program.
It
This
is
isn't
brand
something
new,
that
yeah.
we've left. This
Yeah.
is a
It's-
new
No,
program.
no, but I'm
that-
saying like bringing someone in to do that is
Yes.
because it's so specific.
It's specific, but
Yeah.
they also have all of the tools built in that yes, they've done all the bureaucratic
Automation,
stuff.
phys-
Everything's
yeah.
done. They incorporate a lot of really good things that would be good for the kids.
And we are not alone. Other districts are entering into this too. This is
Yeah.
becoming more common.
To be fair, the state put this money out like 3 or 4 years ago, and nothing happened for like 2 years. So that's why there's a big push for to get more districts involved.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So is this like a middleman for us? We submit and then it would just seem like if there was an easier format, how could we
This is a
get?
capacity grant, so just in general, they're trying to teach us to have the capacity to do it ourselves. So we're going to get initially some money to set this whole fee schedule up,
Mhm.
and then we hopefully will take it over and be able to do it on our own.
It's a platform, right?
Got
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taxes. Yeah.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, it looks like it's 5-0 with an aye from our student board member. Oh, so, yeah, 5-0 vote with an aye from our student board member. I think it's time for a quick break. So, 5 minutes or 5 to 7 minutes?
Maybe we can get a highlight.
Maybe we can get a score update during the break. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a break at 7:58. Hello, everyone. We're going to call this meeting back into order. So we need a motion for the charter school.
I'll make a motion to approve the Orange County School Computer Science Charter School 24-25 first interim report.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Blades, a second by Mr. Frazier.
Oh,
I'll
it's
turn
me.
the time over
It's
to
me.
you. It's you.
Okay, so similar to school districts, charter schools are required to compile and present budget reports throughout the year. and present them to their board in the same intervals as the district budget. The Orange County School of Computer Science is a district-affiliated dependent conversion charter under the direction of this Board of Education. The first interim report has been presented for your approval. Please note that it's not to certify because they're folded into the district's budget that you've already voted on. So the updated budget has been attached to the agenda. And so at this point, I mean, I don't know if we can pull it up, Jeremy, if you, so, but what I wanted to say is that so this is a unique situation where the school really is folded into the district's budget. So we have to pull all of the data out and make a lot of assumptions and estimates based on revenues and some of the expenditures, because if you apply all revenue to if it's too hard, don't worry about it. Yeah, if it's
No, keep going, Jeremy.
This
You're
looks
doing a great
terrible
job.
what I'm looking at. So but if you apply all the revenue, so if we ascribe all of the LCFF revenue to a site, then we would have to also go through and figure out every single expenditure that would go to that site as well. We don't typically do that, and so a lot of these are. I mean, they are estimates, what you're seeing, and so you'll see a deficit for the school with a $12 million deficit district-wide. Every school, if we did this for all schools, they would all be deficit spending to different degrees. And so, but with that said, I would invite any questions.
You're saying that because if we were to do the exact accounting for it, there's fractions of expenses that would be attributed to the site that are district-wide expenses that you'd have to break out.
We would have to.
percentage-wise.
So for instance, administrative services, all of the work that my team does for purchasing and all of that, that has to be allocated on a per ADA basis, and that's what we've done in the budget that you're seeing. Same thing would apply to our maintenance and facilities team, transportation, everything. We would have to break it out, and so we don't typically do that. I know that my staff is planning on bringing forward a resolution in the new year to create a Fund 9, which is a separate fund like we have for cafeteria and everything else, to move OCSCS into that so that it's easier to track expenditures and revenues and all that, because we would apply it to that separate fund. But
would that be allocating district level expenses to that fund?
We'd
or
have
is
to
it
do that
just
as well.
Exact. Okay.
Yes.
Is it, ooh, that's loud, sorry. Is it beneficial for the OCSCS or any reporting that they have to do or we have to do to have it separated out, or how can that help us?
Very much so for the financial audits. So for us, like, we have to, starting at the end of this year, we're going to have to provide a lot of data to our friends, the NIGRO, to be able to create a separate audit report, right? And so to have it in a separate fund would make that a lot easier for us.
Just
yes.
do it on the front end instead of trying to go back.
Correct. Yes.
So this budget, just to confirm, is showing a negative balance at this point, but we'll be able to come back and look at that ongoing.
Yes. Well, so a lot of it. So when I'm looking at the numbers that are posted online, yes, it has they're running at a considerable deficit, but part of that has to do with the upfront startup costs and things of that nature. So when we strip those out, the overall deficit would be less because this is first year.
I think for context, during our study session, it might be good to look at total costs of staffing for that site versus our comparable other middle schools too. As Mr. Stein said, it's hard because I can imagine middle schools, in particular high schools, are probably running more deficit than our elementaries are probably pretty tight. But that would give you good context on staffing levels there versus our typical middle schools.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Do you think the staffing issue is the primary reason for the deficit?
I think that, as Mr. Stein said, we're also attributing these. If you go to that bottom section, like there's like, I don't know, 500,000 in district level costs that we have to book there. I think let's just compare apples to apples and look at comparable middle schools, and we'll be able to tell very quickly.
Is that allocation based on ADA? Is that how we've made that determination? Okay.
Okay, when I compared this budget to what was approved in, that the board approved in June, I noticed almost $1 million additional expenditures that were not listed in the original budget. And staffing was one of them, but also materials and supplies, computer equipment's up like 200,000, startup costs, 291,000. Do we see these numbers stabilizing? I mean,
I would
Or
hope
do
so.
you-
So some of the major shifts that you see are, the revenue is obviously different, because when it was initially brought to the board, there was an assumption that there would be 800 students. What we're seeing now is 738, so that's going to be a considerable drop in revenues. It's about $700,000 less. The expenditures, yes, so the staffing did go up. I noticed that as well, specifically on the classified side. But that and the one-time expenditures, I would not expect that to be an annual ongoing thing. The staffing, as Dr. Chern said, probably needs to be looked at in comparison with other middle schools. And then the expenditures at the bottom, they're a little bit different, based on splitting some of the facilities costs with USI.
okay. Yeah, I noticed that it was divided in half with this one. So it was less money for that taken out, but the expenditures had gone up so high. What can we do to help this school get back on to budget, or to see if we can reduce their debt before, like, second interim? Is there any positive steps we can take?
So second interim being, really second interim is in March, but really it covers up through January 1st, right? Or
Yeah, I know
December
that's,
31st.
it's a little bit.
And as you pointed out, a lot of the costs are around people, and so it's difficult to make that kind of shift between second interim. What would be more is about the board providing guidance to the school for the upcoming year. But again, we're going to have to do that with the entire district, but specifically at the site, you'd have to provide guidance, because you are the governing body of the school, of the charter school. So to provide guidance as to what you want to see for the 25-26 budget.
Are there any additional grants or funding that, I know there was things that were in the pipeline. Is there any additional grants or funding that we're potentially going to be receiving for OCSCS, or?
I'm not aware of any at the moment.
For this school year?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
There was a potential up to, I think the state of California has like $95 million in grants for charter schools. And so I think one of the reasons they were going to bring forth the petition to be, not to be an independent charter, but to just have a little bit more autonomy, is because they can apply for these grants and they can actually get the grants if they can, like the governing board, like they were denied, I think, a $500,000 grant because they said they were too dependent on our board because there was a governing board. But if they had like one of us overseeing it and they had like a parental board, which was, I think, what was in the last thing that wasn't presented, there was an ability to get at least a few $1 million in grants that way. So that is, I know that that's one of the reasons that they had been looking for, that was to get more money, in that channel.
I think again, let's look at all the middle schools and see if this is an anomaly or not. And if there is excessive staffing at this school versus others, then that'll be a priority that the board can decide whether they want to tighten that up.
Any of the, what we were just talking about, where we can bill for services, is that potential that would affect OCSCS? Or is that not a site that would have any of those kind of staffing?
So as it stands now with their current structure, then what we're putting in place for the overall district would apply to them.
Okay.
In the situation where if they were to
be more autonomous?
Yeah, if they were to do that, then no, it would not. They would have to.
Would they be able to bill for it, though?
They would have to implement an entire system, just like the
Okay.
district's doing, but they wouldn't have the grant money that would be
But they wouldn't
allocated
get that
to the
grant money?
district.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Just a question. Looking that it's a more technological school than some of the other middle schools, is there a way that we can just, in the future, obviously, we have the startup money that was put out this year, but next year and the years coming up, there's going to have to be refreshing technology, updating programs, all those expenses coming up. Is there a way we can segregate that for the study session so we can see those numbers as well?
Yep, absolutely.
Like what's anticipated to be replenished? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to buy, it's another to actually keep it up. Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Yes, we do vote.
That's an approval.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 So 5-0 with an aye with our student board member. Okay. Okay, so we're having a board discussion on the homecoming court per bylaw 9322.1. A community member requested that the item be added to the agenda for discussion. So it's open to the board to discuss. Or did someone prepare something, or is the person that submitted this here?
No.
So the question of homecoming
Right.
court versus homecoming king and queen, am I gathering that right? Homecoming king
Right.
and queen? Because we were split.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
At the high school.
I helped do the agenda. So what the proposal was, there were some parents in the community. We received emails from Esperanza and also from El Dorado. They have had parents who are upset that there is a royalty court instead of a homecoming king and queen. I guess Valencia and then also Yorba High School still does that model. And so they're questioning, I think there was 2 boys, not necessarily, there was no sexual identities, nothing. It was just 2 boys, nominated to homecoming court. And so people said that was, right, 1 king and then who was the boy?
There was 1 queen and then 2 boys tied for king.
Okay, so there was 2.
3?
So there are 3 total people
at
on the.
Eldo, the way it works is there's it doesn't matter. Whoever gets the most votes wins court. So what happened is one person won by a lot, and then 2 people tied for second place. They have the same amount of votes. So then we gave it to 3 people. So there was 3 homecoming court. 2 of them are my good friends.
Yeah, and so I think at Esperanza, it was either 2 boys or 2 girls at homecoming. I can't recall. I remember I was at the game. Todd, do you remember? I don't recall. Okay. So that was where a lot of these emails came from. And so a lot of what the parents are saying is that they think it should go back to, 1 boy, 1 girl. And they wanted, to bring that out because they were concerned that some of the girls are missing out. There are girls who want to be homecoming, queens. There are, and so they're kind of missing out. So they wanted the section at these 2 schools to go back to a king and a queen. Apparently, the decision was made just Esperanza and Esperanza and El Dorado are the only schools that have gone this way. And so they wanted the board to discuss going back and having everybody have a homecoming court of king and queen, so there is equal representation by both genders. And they also said that when they were asked why they switched, they had said that it was because El Dorado said they wanted to give the trans students and non-binary students more opportunity. But in discussing that, we don't really understand if it's just a straight vote, how that is giving any more opportunity unless there was actually a second category for them. So that was the discussion we had, and that's what the parents at Esperanza and El Dorado are concerned about.
So the discussion you're talking about is ones that you had with those parents specifically?
We've had emails
Or emails.
for the last year to the
Mhm.
board,
Mhm.
so I don't know if you can get forwarded the emails.
Well, I got the
possibly.
last one.
Right.
And that was my concern, because to me, it's a matter, if you, like, in the voting situation, it's just a matter of semantics of court, royalty, king, queen. Honestly, it's probably easier to buy 100 for ASB, 100 sashes that say royalty court, or, you know, royal, whatever it is, than having individual king,
what do the
queen,
sashes
you know,
say?
like-
So,
yeah.
about the sashes, this is so off topic, but I had to iron on all the little cricket on the sashes. Oh my gosh.
So we're saving on labor from
it
you.
It took me like 20 hours, I swear. It was awful. Just to let you know, I was the one who made the sashes for everyone on homecoming court. Anyway, but yeah, the whole ordeal about the court or the royalty, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. When I came in, I think I thought it was king and queen, and then when it came to like the voting for, you know, whatever, in a student's mind, it doesn't really matter. You still probably vote for a king,
Yeah,
because
you're
usually
voting for-
it's a couple who runs. Like sophomore year, me and my now ex-girlfriend won sophomore homecoming royalty. So usually a couple wins no matter what. Usually a boy and a girl win. This year it was just kind of fuzzy, especially with the senior royalty, because I don't know. Yeah, it was just weird. I don't know why.
So do you think that it would be fair to go back and say, let's all vote for one boy and let's all vote for one girl? I mean, it's.
Are you talking boy, girl, or identify as boy or identify as girl? I mean, there's two different.
Yeah, that's where it gets like.
Well, I mean,
to me, because
it's
it's
just
the
if-
way El Dorado's doing it, it's more, it's like he said, it's in the email, it's more community-based, it's connectedness, belonging. So no matter what they are, yeah, exactly, what they identify as, whatever it is, they're getting included in the vote, and then the kids ultimately choose who it is.
Well, if they
Yeah.
identify as a girl, then they would go in the girls' vote.
Correct,
And
yeah.
then if they identify as a boy,
And
they
that's
go
what
in
I'm
the boy
asking. Are you
vote.
looking straight for boy, girl, or
yeah.
are you looking for?
No, just boy, whatever, they identify
King,
whatever
queen.
it is, king and queen, that's it, that's all they're
Like,
looking
let's
for.
get back to the way it used to be.
But to
Technically,
me-
they're boys and girls, so they should be prince and
Yeah.
Oh, prince and
princesses.
princess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very true.
technically.
And technically,
Very
too,
true.
in a classroom, if we're not referring to our kids as boys and girls, it's students, scholars, then why are we going to delineate king, queen?
All right, we're not,
mean, that's
we're not
like-
referring to them as boys and girls?
Well, in classrooms, you don't say girls line, boys line, right? Everybody lines up together. You know, students, scholars, you don't say,
I
you
just
know,
think
that's,
I just think it's so insignificant.
yeah, and that's like,
Well,
you
I
can't,
think,
like-
okay, so Luke,
And so
you
it's
might
like-
say that it was weird this
Yeah.
year, so, but, you know, and you said, okay, well, it's just weird this year, you know.
It was
and
weird
the whole-
because my biggest worry because of the three people, because of the tie.
Right,
That
but I'm
was-
saying is for some people, you know, there are some girls who are like devastated if they're out beaten out by two boys for homecoming queen. We're seeing a lot of stuff where girls are,
categorize the vote, right?
you know, like, so should we
Or it's all
go
in
vote
general.
boy, vote girl, and you can put, it doesn't matter how you identify, you put yourself in that side.
Thank you guys for
Category.
being quiet.
And if you know what, if somebody who identifies as a girl, if they win, but at least it's back to the boy and girl vote.
I mean, when you did the votes, was it total number of boys, total number of girl votes, or was it just, because it could have
No.
been
Total
three,
number of
three,
total vote.
three people
Total
could have
votes.
tied and they're all been girls.
I think
Total votes, he said.
I would keep it the same way at El Dorado. I think the other way, because I don't see a problem with it. I think if a girl really wanted to win, then you can like campaign for homecoming votes or whatever. I know like at El Dorado that doesn't really happen. You know, it's kind of just like
That you know of.
Yeah.
There's campaigning, for sure. Come on, Luke.
There's like so a lot of people deny it. Like, of
course.
our team director will say like, "Oh, you got nominated. Do you want to come be?" And people are like,
Exactly.
"No, I don't want to do this." So I just think the whole homecoming royalty it's just a little.
But think of your other ones. For you, it thinks this way, but we've had a lot of upset parents and a lot of upset kids who really wanted, you know, to be homecoming queen, and instead it was awarded to two boys, and we had two princes, not kings, right? What is it, Carrie?
Well, it should be
It was
prince and
seniors,
princess, but it's
yeah.
royalty.
It's two boys, one girl.
Kings.
It's royalty.
So,
But yeah, my opinion is I think it should just for the El Dorado way should just stay the same. I don't see a problem with it. I don't the people I surround myself with. I mean, I don't like you said there obviously is complaints, but I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. And my thing too, reading the email that was sent, at least the one that was forwarded to me, my issue with it was going back to a religious reason why it should be changed back. And that's not what we're here for. We're not here to debate religious beliefs. We're really here to debate educational issues, So to me, reading that email, I'm like, this is not truly looking at a standpoint from just school, like you said, feelings being hurt, whatever it is. It went back to from someone's personal beliefs. And to me, that's not for us to debate. That's how they feel, that's fine, but that's not us to make a decision for that.
Yeah,
So that's
well,
going to go into a lot of different areas then.
But I think, no, I
A
didn't-
lot of different areas
I don't know if I
about
would have
personal
said,
beliefs.
I wouldn't have said personal beliefs, but I mean, I look at it from a biological standpoint. Like that's what, it's a king and queen traditionally forever. And the girls that have dreamed of being homecoming queen may not get to have that opportunity. So I think, I mean,
There are lots of them that aren't going to get it. Only one will.
absolutely.
But at least one has a chance.
Well,
One has
I
a
think we
chance.
don't do a lot. We don't dictate themes. We don't dictate
Yeah, why are we
dictate
gonna-
events.
It
We
could be
don't do
two
any of
girls
that.
winning, too.
I think
Or
it
three
should
girls.
stay with the school.
Could be.
That's, if I could add, that's how we've responded when we've received inquiries from families is, this is student-led, ASB-led, and the district, we are not inclined to direct a policy on royalty and court because that's not to do with the education
Did the
program.
students
It's
decide? Who
extracurricular.
brought the idea?
It went to, okay, sorry.
For just like the overall royalty and
Yeah,
not
to
like
do
this-
it as like a one big vote.
Ever since I came into El Dorado, that's how it was. When I was a freshman, that's how it was. It was one big vote. So and I was an ASB. I joined sophomore
You've been
year.
an ASB the whole time?
No, I joined
Oh,
sophomore year.
When
So-
we
okay.
inquired with the activities directors at the two schools, they shared that it was about 5 years ago when they attended the Orange County Leadership Association, where this was a discussion, and so the activities directors brought it back to their ASBs, and the ASBs decided to make the change.
So I was in 8th grade then. So just to make a decision.
So it wasn't on you?
Yeah.
I say we leave it with ASB.
Yeah.
I personally think we should have homecoming king and queen.
I agree with that. I would like that, but I think that to dictate what that is, I don't know what our.
You get into parameters.
You get
and
into lots of things potentially,
yeah.
but I think that it makes a lot of sense to have homecoming king and homecoming queen, or prince and princess, if you'd rather, age-wise.
Yeah,
not
technically
let
I was
them
a
be king and
prince.
queen.
Sophomore year, I was a prince.
Gotcha.
Well, so I guess if the two schools that are doing this practice, if they want to bring back prince and princesses next year, then they have, to do it, because it sounds like they went to this activities director, meeting, and then they decided to try to, start to change it. And so, I guess they have the opportunity to change it back if they'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. So per each site, how they want to handle it. And we're not voting on this. This is just a discussion.
I went through our board bylaws and our policies, and there's nothing in there that says that we have authorization really over your government. I think this is a school discussion, and if it's important to the school, then they can make their choices. And, and they could call it pretty much whatever they wanted to. If they didn't want to have a royal court, they could have a
I'm
hot
sure there's
court.
things they can't call it.
Well, they could have a hot court.
Like there's things that they can't
Yeah,
call it.
legally, yes, there probably are some legal things, but,
I think ethically too.
And some schools even do where you have class wars, and then whatever class wins that's who's homecoming king and queen. So it could be a sophomore, freshman, junior, senior.
So this
there's
is
so
all
many ways you could do
decided,
it.
Differently by a lot of different schools. So I think they'll have fun researching that. Good.
Yeah, I'm glad I can take this back too, because just like yeah, exactly. I'll tell Mr. C. about
And I think the
our
discussion
findings.
wasn't good because obviously class wars, that could be something completely new on how you do homecoming king and queen. There's all kinds of different ways. And so even the traditional way that they're doing it, if they want to go back to a homecoming king and queen through a class war deal, it all works.
Okay, I think that's the end of the discussion. We will move to the consent calendar. Actions proposed for the consent calendar items are consistent with approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. The trustees receive board agenda backup information in advance of the scheduled meeting and are prepared to vote with knowledge on the block vote items. Is there any items to be pulled?
21.1.
22.4.
Okay, and I am going to pull, do you have some water down there, Luke? Here.
Oh, bad. That was terrible.
I'm going to pull 22.2 and 22.9. Okay.
Also, those at 52-49 going into fourth quarter.
Oh, okay.
Who is it? Wait, I missed it.
49 Elda. Fourth quarter start?
Yeah.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you for our update.
Thank you, Luke.
Okay, is there anybody else want to pull an item? Okay. So I need a motion to approve the remainder.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Frazier, a second by Mrs. Blades. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a 5-0 vote with an aye from our student board member. He is going the distance tonight. Let's go.
You're not curfewed.
I mean, yeah, finals tomorrow. Who cares?
You probably don't even have a final tomorrow. You probably already took it.
We didn't hear that, Luke.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I studied so much. I have so much knowledge in my brain that I don't even have to worry about it tomorrow. I'm so prepared.
Okay, the first one is 21.1.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the district membership in the California School Board Association Education Legal Alliance and Gamut from January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, so this is the CSBA once again, and the one thing that we have said, we don't have any problem with anybody going like to the California School Board Association, but one of the things that has been brought up is I've attended some conferences. I think you've attended some conferences. We've all attended conferences, but it's never requiring a $35,000 fee just to be a member of it, like to have a membership fee. And so I know that the three of you just attended CSBA, and you were still able to attend the conferences. You're still able to attend if you have any of like workshops or other conferences that you want to attend. You could still attend even if we don't pay this big membership fee. And so one of the things that was mentioned, in fact, a few teachers reached out to me and said, was perhaps everyone just is able to go freely attend what they want to. We don't necessarily have to be a member, and we're able to give that $35,000 back to, like for science camp. Do we give it back to the school sites for like their AR programs? Do we give it to the school sites for, professional development? Do we give it to the teachers for school supplies, for their classrooms? Is there a better way to spend the money than to pay just a straight membership fee? Because even when we go to these conferences, we pay $35,000, but that does not include any of the conferences, any of the things that we go to. So it could potentially creep up to, almost an additional $15,000 or $20,000. And so I have no problem with anybody going to the CSBA or whatever, but do we need to have a membership fee? And just say, like, we're not going to take the membership fee because we get all the information through our attorneys, we get all of the information through the county board, but we're just going to save ourselves some money and not pay a $35,000 membership fee.
Being the first time that I attended the CSBA conference this last couple weeks ago, I just think that we should be held to the same accountability as our teachers. If we're all asking our teachers and staff to go to the same trainings and be on the same page about things and learn the same things, then I think we should be doing the same thing as well. Because us going to hodgepodge is putting things together. Everybody's getting different information somewhat. I mean, the base is obviously board bylaws and things like the board policies are the same, but the training you're getting is different. So if we're going to ask teachers and everybody else to be trained a certain way, then we should be as well. And then as one thing I did learn too you guys probably know more about this than I do, but what does the $35,000 include? It's not just you're paying for nothing and you're getting nothing in return. But a lot of the things that other districts have discussed too is that sometimes it's more, one, costly for not doing on the same page and lawsuits get brought up. It's costing us more in the end if we're not all trained the same way and following the same guidelines. And two, for paying outside lawyers every single time. I think legal assistance is included in CSBA. So, I mean, a little bit. So, yeah, so at least our basic stuff could be covered rather than paying other outside entities. And in the long run, I think, to me, honestly, it'll save us money because, like I said, we'll be on the same page. We're not doing anything
But
that
we're not
supposed
all
to be doing.
required to attend. And we all
Correct,
go to
but it would
different
be nice that we were
classes.
all offered the same
But
things.
we can still go.
You
Right,
can
but
still
at
go
an
regardless.
at an increased cost, and then we don't have everything else that goes with it as well.
Well, but we haven't had it for
A year.
over a year, and we haven't missed it. So that's
Right,
my
but
whole
there's
point
actually
is-
a lot of things that I learned there that we don't have in place here. A governance notebook with protocols for each situation, things that I've talked to other people from other districts, superintendents, board members at that conference at the first day at the new board member meeting training, and there's a lot of things I was like, well, I haven't seen this, I haven't seen that, or they have in place that we don't. So it'd be nice to kind of get on the same page, one, with all the other boards in the state. I mean, there was 400 of us there that attended just that one day. And like I said, and kind of like, what we're lacking, it would be nice to have those protocols in place so we all are responding the same way. We're all know what to expect. We all know what to do.
Do we
So
all
like I
want to
said, and
respond the same way? I wouldn't really want to respond
but I
as
mean,
some
to
of
a
these other
certain
boards
email,
have.
like the email that we got about, homecoming, we all know what to do. That came to us individually. That's my point. And that's the thing that, like I said, teachers are expected. You're not asking teachers, oh, go ahead and go get trained on GLAD by yourself. Go figure it out. We'll pay for it. Or go do that. We should be held to the same accountability.
I don't see it as the same thing.
No,
And I
not at
think that you're putting a lot of hope in something being great when we haven't missed it for a year.
But did you have it? Have you used it before? Like, I
Yes,
mean,
Well, and I think too, if you're saying that we're missing all of these things, we were a part of the CSBA for like 30-something years. So if we were missing all of this stuff and we weren't following what they were telling us to do, then obviously there was something missing all this time. It didn't just happen that all of a sudden we're missing stuff in a year. Obviously, things weren't implemented, and these are just suggestions that they say. You're not required to implement these things.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is it would be nice to be on the same page as everybody else, who's the majority of people in the state.
I don't understand the same page.
Mrs. Buck.
So I have been part of CSBA for the whole time, except for last year. I found it incredibly valuable. All of the bylaws we have, all of our policies, all of that stuff before last year had all been done and vetted through CSBA. I think it's an incredible membership. It gives us a lot of access to things around the state that we wouldn't have access to. And so I'm going to vote for it. I think it's great, and I'm glad that we're going
Hey, Carrie?
to hopefully go back.
What access do we not have?
You can't go to anything or get any information from CSBA without being a member.
You
So
guys
if you're,
went to the conference, so I'm confused.
you can go to the conference and pay a separate membership. Anything outside of that related to CSBA, you don't have access to.
Okay, so you're saying like the boilerplate, not agendas, but all of the
Gamut, the
documentation.
legal,
gamut,
all
yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Mm.
But we have that through OCDE.
It's not the same, and CSBA is
But is it
an
wrong?
and it's an organization of 1,000 boards all around the state with 5,000 board members. The ability to get information and best practices and hear about what's happening around the state is so much more vast there than anywhere else.
It's a lobbying firm. It's a lobbying
They
firm.
have lobbying people within CSBA, and one of the things that they did was make sure that the governor last year didn't cut Prop 98. So it was incredibly valuable for every board and every district in the state.
I'd also like to add that I find value in this program as well. You talk about we could go to any conference we want. The member rate to attend this conference is $775 with a non-member rate at $1,560. So even if you just taking the three of us, it really helps. The governances classes that you can take to better yourself, the professional development that you can take throughout the year, the training updates.
You still have to pay for that, though. That does not in the membership thing. Every single one of those
Yes,
things you
but
just
you-
listed, you pay for.
But you can't attend if you're not a member. You can't go to a training on master governance unless you're a member. This last year, I had a lot of questions on bylaws, and I couldn't reach out to CSBA and ask those questions. I didn't have the support that I wanted.
Did you reach out to the OC Department of Education or our attorney?
I had to reach out to our attorney.
Okay.
And even then, he was like, I'm not sure. Or he would, advise, but I'm like, I'd like to see what other districts are doing. When we were working on some of our updates on our board bylaws in the past, I reached out to our field rep, and they sent me samples from several different districts, so I didn't have to do the research. They were assisting. They're there to answer questions and help. So I'm going to be voting for this as well.
So we did have a question too. What CSBA attorney did you guys speak to at the conference? You guys said at the last meeting there was a CSBA attorney. So how did you speak to a CSBA attorney and get advice at the conference?
They're at all the classes.
No, I understand that, but who was it? What was the name?
I talked to a lot of attorneys. They're at.
I understand.
I mean, you can look at the
But
class and-
obviously he gave a certain type of direction. So what was his name?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? And who was there when all of,
I don't think this has to do with.
Well, it actually does.
No, this doesn't. We're moving.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't want to say who was there and who spoke to the attorney? And how they gave advice to our board?
When I went up to the attorney at the end of the class and asked questions.
So it was you by
about-
yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't remember the attorney's name?
I could look him up. He was from the charter renewal class.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, we're all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Nope.
I'll abstain.
You'll abstain?
Good call. That should be your podcast.
I abstain.
I
That's
abstain.
a good one.
Okay. Motion carries with a 3-2 vote, and our student board member, abstains. So the next item will be 22.2.
I'll make a motion, we approve warrant listings in the following amounts. Check 269199 through 270011, current year expenditures, November 10th, 2024 through December 7th, 2024, $10,225,970.29, and payroll registers, 5A, $15,283,000 and $1.16.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mr. Frazier. So I pulled this item because on the warrant listings from 11/17 to 11/23, there were several items from Culver Newland. And I asked about these purchases, and this payment was for purchases for furniture for USI and extended learning. The amount for USI for the furniture alone was $45,000, and that was for 30 chairs, some tables, whiteboards, and other student needs. I keep getting the answer that we made the investment last year for USI, but every month we keep getting additional fees for USI. Last month we did $36,000 for baseball equipment, and this month $45,000 for furniture. And so I just kind of wanted to know, why do these athletes need this furniture? Is this furniture in use now? Can it be returned? I mean, where are we with this furniture?
And if I could add, are these things being approved on the front end or on the back end?
Can I take that last question first? What do you mean by approved on the front end of the
Are
back
we
end?
approving it now after it's been spent? And did it come to us before it was spent to the board?
It should have come to the board on a purchase rec last month.
Okay.
Are these part of the budget that was originally submitted? I mean, it's within the spending limits that we're talking about for you.
I'd have to look and see what what account code it was charged to. I can't answer
These,
that at the
these
moment.
are coming out of the general budget.
Okay, so then it would be part of the budget that you saw. Considering that the payment is right now, it would not have been included in the figures that were presented at first interim for OCSES. Or that's not OCSES, sorry, USI, part of the district's general fund budget. Yes, it is. So it'll show up in second interim. As for are we done purchasing? These don't come through. I mean, they're obviously processed through purchasing, but they're approved at the site. They're requested, and it goes up through the approval process. So I'm not sure when the purchases are all done. Like we're constantly buying things for all sites. What I'll say is that the chairs and everything are for the, I guess what I'm being told is called the team room. Which is where the students go when they're not being trained, and so that's what it's used for. And I guess they're configurable.
So that was my question of being for a team room, was what I was reading. Is there 30, since there's 30 chairs, 30 tables, are there teams of 30 that go in there? Because from what I understand, we have a little bit of this sport, a little bit of that sport. There's not quite a team. So could we have done it with like 15 chairs, 10 chairs, like half the amount, since there's not 30 people using it all at once?
But at any point in time, you've got a certain number of students that are there, and if there's 30 students at a given time, then that would make sense. But it's not there's not a USI team.
This is the recovery team room / everything else.
The mental
room.
health happens in that room too?
They do homework in there. You have to see it. There's the main area, and then there's this other room.
So when I was there.
That's what I was wondering, because it said team room. So I'm like, is it available for other teams to use if they have functions, like from another school, they can go in there? That was my question, was what was the purpose of calling it a team room?
I'm guessing it's just kind of a general term. It's not specified to a team.
When I was there, watching one of the classes, there was, I think, like 15 kids working out in the middle. And then you had like some of the kids who had just gotten done, and they were doing like a second class. So they were in the back in that team room doing homework and doing all their stuff. And so all their stuff was in there. That's what I saw when I was there.
Yeah, because there's
so I was
also
wondering,
a
like,
study
the
period.
purpose of it. Yeah.
When I toured USI, there was the kids studying, and then there were kids in the other room, and they had, a typical table in there that you see at every school in the district, and they had desks for individual. And so this is not that equipment, correct? This is like an upgrade?
It looks like that, right? So I when you asked the question, that was the first I've seen of the layout and those chairs. So, do you have anything you want to add?
I know when they first opened, it was temporary folding chairs, tables. So I'm not sure when you went to tour at what point, but the new furniture did come in, and it's really like it's really pretty, but like cushioned chairs, but also tables. So it's also, the team room is really the catch-all location where the coaches go and pick up the students for their workouts, where the students are stretching and getting ready for the workouts. They're doing their homework assistance with the instructional aid. So it's like a multi-purpose classroom.
That's what I was going to ask. So it's a
hangout room.
multi-purpose room, but
Yes.
we took away the multi-purpose room from Bernardo, but now they have a multi-purpose room of their own to use. So that's what I'm.
It's small.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, but they're given a multi-purpose room to use for that. Like you said, it's a catch.
That is there.
It's a pretty big room. I think it was the choir room, is that correct? No, the auditorium is where.
No, it was actually.
It was the choir room. Yeah, because it's tiered. And they also have like the loungers and the massage chairs in there as well.
Go to USI, Luke.
Submit a request, Luke.
Is there a lacrosse USI?
Okay. I will not be voting for this. I'll be voting against this. We just need to be careful. The money, especially now that we've seen our budget. When we started off the school year, we were at a $9 million deficit, and now we're at a $12 million deficit. And this kind of spending, I think, is not prudent. I think we need to be careful where our money is coming, especially since this is coming out
of the general budget, so I will be voting against this.
And you just voted $35,000 for CSBA membership.
But that would be benefiting the whole district, not just 84
No, it's
students.
only 5 of us. It's only 5 of us who are able
Ultimately,
to
it's the whole
to get
district,
this,
because we're
but-
all
No, I disagree.
governing a little
I
bit
disagree.
better.
This money goes directly to the students. $35,000 is
To
just goes to
84
us.
to 84
and we've
students.
proved, we
Not
have, it's
just-
more than
and
84.
that's probably, like
And
you
we
said,
have
an upgrade from
proved
what normal
that
students get at the
we can
regular
go
sites.
without CSBA. We proved it this whole year.
But yeah, but again, it's not the normal furniture that was at a regular school.
So I just wanted to point out that I understand that the sentiment of not wanting to approve this item. These are payments that have already been cut. So it would be, anyway, they're already issued. So it would be difficult to not approve this item. I would recommend that when we're evaluating the purchase orders, like that would be the time to pull and deny those at the time.
Well, the purchase orders are really hard because they're general. They're like a large amount. There's no backup information. What kind of controls can we put in at the sites and before approval so that we're making sure that we're making responsible decisions before they come to us as a warrant? What can we implement?
I mean, it would be up to the board to decide if there was a threshold that you wanted to see more detail for certain purchases or certain types of, like object codes, like if we're buying furniture or buying equipment, things like that. The board could specify that you wanted to have more information on those types of items.
But is the spending in line with the expected budget, or is this outside of the expected budget? See, I think that's the part that I'm questioning, because it's not, I don't think, when you make a purchase, you say, is it in our budget, right? So there's a number that they have. Is it outside of that?
So USI doesn't have a separate budget.
Okay.
So that's a Parkview thing,
It's a
right?
park-
So
but it's
it's part of
Parkview.
Parkview, but I'm saying that, so that it's as part of the program that's been, that's been created by the district. The purchases are taking place because of that program, and so there isn't a budget necessarily for it per se. It's what authority that the district is granting to that program to make those purchases.
And then the total number of Parkview students. So if a Parkview student is enrolled in Parkview, but they're not enrolled in USI,
Right.
they don't have access to that, but it's their money being used to purchase
Well,
it.
I just mean that yes.
Mhm.
So USI is part of the Parkview program, yes.
Because this is a new program and we haven't had a full accounting of what funds have gone in and out for USI, I guess we're going to have to approve this, but I do want to put some stop gaps in place. I think especially for where we are with USI right now, we just keep buying more and more equipment, and we're already at a $1.3 million deficit at USI. We need to figure out, yes, I'm sorry. So I'd like to know where we are with that before we do any more. Chairs, tables, more equipment, weights, any of that stuff, if we could put a hold on it until we can actually get numbers together,
And the board can make that.
that would be my recommendation right now.
What is the approval process for this kind of expenditure at USI?
It would generate from the program, and it would go up through, does it go up through Ed Services, or? Yeah, it goes up through Ed Services and then to purchasing.
So it doesn't go through the principal at Parkview, it goes,
That's the ultimate, yeah, I think that's a question.
I'd have to look at the workflow for that specific program.
I just, our next item that we pulled was the developer fees, and, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. But last year alone, we spent 1.4 million on USI, and we are anticipating another 288,000 coming out of developer fees. So these things are, USI budget grows. So by the end of this year, we're looking at 1.7 million just in startup fees. And we keep every month, there's more cost to USI, and they're not staffing. And, we were told that we weren't going to have additional costs this year. We were just focusing on staffing. So I just feel like we need to really stop the spending at USI, focus on staffing, and see when we come back with our budget meeting and see what happens.
So in February, we'll put together all the costs, where they're coming from, whether it's one time, what funds they are for USI, Parkview, OCS, BVVA, El Camino, all the programs and all the costs. And in the meantime, we will instruct USI not to put forth any purchase orders. That's what I'm hearing.
Can we get
I think we need
also-
to do it just district-wide then until we go sit through and look at every single program. Say no more purchase orders at all for anybody. Don't order chairs, don't order tables, don't order anything.
That
Don't
might be
think-
problematic.
Well, we can do, as Mr. Stein said, we can have a threshold
With
of a
more
certain
detail.
amount of money that the board is requesting to be able to know what it's for. Because we spend a lot on furniture at,
All the time.
many sites. But if the board wants a threshold that we provide explanation, it's more staff work, but we could do that.
Can we also get just an outline of the approval process so that that's clear? Like, just who does it go? Does it go through the Parkview principal? Does Dr. Holloway go to somewhere else before it gets to Ed Services, or just how does that work? Just information's good.
Also, I think it would be interesting to do an inventory of what we have on hand. I've heard that our warehouse has lots of furniture. Is that correct?
You're just saying, like, what furniture do we
Yeah,
have on hand?
well, like,
I have a
what
lot
do
of
we-
pianos too, in case
Yeah.
people want those.
So we got pianos, and so maybe, kind of an inventory of what we have on hand before we are purchasing additional equipment to see what is usable.
Well, if we see a piano, we know not to say yes.
Is the inventory reviewed annually?
It depends. So if there's things that the sites are sending back to the warehouse, we do inventory everything. We do surplus a lot of it. So you have that surplus that comes
Yeah,
to
I
the
see
board
that.
item that we try to sell that on surplus sites. But so yeah, we do know what's in the warehouse.
Okay, so you're saying the check has already been sent, basically, in the mail?
It's been cut. Yeah.
We should focus more on PO listings and ask.
Yes,
more
'cause that's
related to that,
where-
'cause
so-
that's where it's coming before it's being paid out.
Right, because we're making a purchase request and a purchase order, and then you're approving that, and then after that's been approved, really, it's everything's ordered, everything is received, we catalog it, and then the payment's issued, and then the warrants come back.
Do we have direction to put a stop to all purchase orders before coming to the board at a certain threshold? Because we can do that.
I think a threshold would be good. I don't know what's a reasonable threshold.
I was going to say, Mr. Stein, what do you think?
Well, that gives me a lot of power on my last meeting.
Yeah. Well, I just saw you were very hesitant, so I just
I'm
wanted
hesitant to
to.
put I think if you would like to see more information from a specific site for purchases, I think that's reasonable to see that before it goes out. Putting a threshold on it means so if we had a science classroom that needed to do that, then that's going to put a real stop on that, and the kids aren't going to get the benefit from
I
that.
think what they're asking,
So-
let me rephrase that, rather than a stopgap, an explanation.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more detail for the board to receive.
For example, if it's a purchase order of 20,000 or more, can the board get the site and what it is?
Yeah,
And
of
not
course.
even a huge paragraph, but just a.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Just an explanation and
Yeah.
and what fund it's coming. Is it coming out of the general fund?
Yes.
Is it coming out of,
Yes, it's entirely possible. And then what you'll find out is we buy a lot from the same vendors over and over and over again. You're going to get tired of seeing, but yes, absolutely, we can.
Well, I've learned some of them.
And,
So
and yeah, so I mean, 25,000 would be something that we could do just to see what it looks like, and then you can decide to adjust that. Because I suspect that you're going to be shocked at how much. I mean, if you look at we're cutting $10 million worth of checks, so it's going to be a lot of purchase recs, but.
So
we
would
can do
you
that.
recommend a higher threshold?
I think you start at one, and then go from there, honestly.
What was the amount for the tables and chairs again? 45,000.
45,000.
Okay, and so.
Just for one school. And
I
just
understand, but they're saying that this happens quite often at the schools
Well-
in this amount. So is this a normal amount for tables and chairs at a school site?
It's-
Is 45,000 a large amount of money? So we would know where to put the threshold.
I'll be honest, it's those it's a large amount for 30 chairs.
Okay.
But it just depends on what you're buying and what the design of them is. So, I mean, $25,000-$50,000 either way. Like if the board picks a threshold, we'll work within it, and then you can decide if you want less
I think
information.
25.
Yeah,
25.
I just,
Start
for
at 25,
comparison,
yeah.
because
Okay.
there were several items there, and the other two items were for expanded learning, and they got desks, chairs, filing cabinets, and other related office furniture, and they spent $16,000. So expanded learning spent $16,000 on furniture, USI spent $45,000. So that,
And
it's
some
quite a
of
bit
that would
difference.
expanded learning come out of ELOP?
Yes.
And then the tables and chairs at USI are coming out of general. So
Yes.
that also factors in for me.
But ELOP it came out of the general fund. This is out of the general
Well,
fund.
the ELOP is in the
These
general
ones-
fund, but it's a separate resource in
Yeah.
the general fund. We do track that separately.
We agreed
Ready to
25.
vote?
25,000?
25. And then when we're bombarded with lots and lots of stuff, then we can reduce.
Then we'll
We'll-
retract. Thank you.
Take a vote.
We need to take a vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion passed 5-0 with an aye from our student board member.
I pulled the next one, the 22.4.
Okay.
I move that we adopt resolution number 24-07, accepting the annual and 5-year developer fees report pursuant to Government Code Section 66001, 66006, and 66008 for the period of July 1, 2023 through July 30th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Beck, a second by Mr. Frazier.
I pulled this because of developer fees, and I just wanted to review it and go over some of it with us. If you wouldn't mind kicking us off.
Oh, okay. So I didn't have anything prepared for
Oh.
this. So this is just something, I mean, we bring this report to the board every year. Let me see if I can pull it up over here. So basically it goes through and it's for last year and what was received, what was spent, and then it kind of sets the stage for future planning. So where would you like to start?
Our expenses from last year, page 4.
Okay.
And I
What-
guess we're at a 1.9 million, and what, are we on a different page? Oh, I'm looking at
Yeah.
4 on the bottom of it, but it's actually
it's-
6.
Okay. Yes, I see
So
that.
some of our projects funded, and I'm looking at Universal Sports Institute and the kitchen from Valencia. So last year we did have part of the Valencia kitchen planned.
I must be looking at the wrong page.
I'm not seeing Valencia kitchen in this one, but
No,
it's
no,
not.
not.
We
That's for
had planned
future,
on,
yes.
yes, that's for future.
Uh-huh.
And this past year, we spent 1.4 million on Universal Sports Institute. And
That's correct.
just out of developer fees. And did we spend anything else outside of developer fees?
Yes, so that would be, the 1.4 is just, I believe, for the equipment purchase and some of the work done. There would be more for the preparation of the building, and I'm assuming that was out of RDA, redevelopment agency fees, or
Okay.
revenue.
I liked your glasses, Mr. Stein, by the way. I just wanted to comment on that.
Oh, thank you.
They looked good.
Yeah. I can't read without them. One of the benefits of being my age, so.
Do you have any idea of what those fees were from the redevelopment fees for
The
USI?
revenue, we get in about $4 million a year, $4.5 million if my memory serves me correctly.
Okay, but what, for USI, what portion of that was?
I would be estimating at this point, but I want to say that the last time we were looking at the totals for the work done was probably about 1.2.
And the 2?
Yes,
Is that the site, including OCSCS?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, it's here, it's projected that we're gonna spend another 288,000 on Universal Sports Institute. Do you, what did that cover?
I think that's just completing the project that bled over into July and August. And that would be facilities work. It would not be further purchases, I don't believe, of equipment.
And that's not developer fees.
I think that's what
The 288?
President Anderson's
It's
referring
in
to.
the report.
Yeah.
In the additional.
Yeah.
In the additionals.
Yeah, on that.
Correct. And we feel like the Universal Sports Institute is going to end this year, correct?
You mean the construction work on it?
Funding out of.
Yes.
The funding,
Yes.
let me be clear,
Yes,
the
out of
funding
the developer
for,
fees,
out of the
yes.
developer fees.
Correct.
Just checking, because it grows. Can you explain the timeline for the Valencia kitchen? It's being added here as a project,
Mhm.
and with its date of completion and how that's going to roll out?
Sure. Let me, yeah, we pulled that as well.
Yep. It is the next one.
Hey, Gary, real quick on the side,
Yep.
since all of USI has, you just said it's been done with developer fees, so there was never $1.9 million pulled from the Valencia kitchen project into USI. From what you're telling us is everything has been paid for with developer fees.
The initial purchase was, and then that extra, whatever, 288, whatever, is from developer fees, but there's funds from redevelopment and other things used for it. Yeah.
Right, but it's still all considered in the developer fees. We never pulled from a project to fund USI.
Right, no, it's,
Okay, thank you.
right. Let's see, let me pull up my notes.
But we did reprioritize projects, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
But that's not pulling money if we're just reprioritizing to do one project ahead of another. That's not pulling money from the project.
Right, and then we do receive those, I mean, we get different levels of developer fees every year, and so the money that we have allocated for the Valencia kitchen would be received not only this year, but in coming years as well. So you asked about the timeline for the Valencia kitchen. So we have an item coming up, 22.9, which would basically start the design of the Valencia kitchen, if it's approved. If it is, we would start the official design, January 2025. The work to design and get all the way through DSA approval, because we're going to be adding freezer and dry storage in the bottom of the building. We estimate that we wouldn't get approval of everything probably until fall of 2025. So it's going to take us a good, 9 months to get that done and approved. And then, so after that, the earliest we could see putting a bid on the street would be probably, right after that. And then the earliest we could start construction is January 26th. But that would be in the middle of a school year. Whether or not we want to do that, that'll be up to the board. But right now, we're saying, well, maybe we just plan for summer of 2026 to start construction. But that timeline can be moved up depending on DSA approvals and all of that.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
I do think, because I know in one of your campaign flyers, you specifically said we allocated 1.9 million away from the Valencia kitchen to USI, and so I think you should come out and say that we did not do that. As it's just said.
I also wanted just to clarify with the wording of pulling funds, reprioritizing. So technically, if we would have slowed down on USI and not implement it right away, maybe use less money for that in the beginning, we could have at the same time concurrently started the Valencia kitchen project and ran those two and then gone from there.
I mean,
And
yes,
slowed the process
with $4
down, but we
million
could have
in the
started it
bank,
sooner.
yes.
And USI was added after we had already done all of this, so reprioritizing is actually taking it and bumping it over other things that we had prioritized. So technically, maybe it's not pulling it away from it because it's still on the list, but bumping it off the list is actually accurate.
But it's not taking $1.9 million from a project. It's not doing
It's
that.
diverting the money that was set
It
aside
was
for.
not diverted.
I think it's all semantics, and we're getting a kitchen in Valencia.
The good news is we have enough money to do the kitchen. Haven't started this project in I don't know how many years, and we're starting it now, and it's going to take some time.
And it was because of the $43 million that was found that we're able to do these projects.
So we're going to get going. It's not going to be a quick project, but we have funding for it.
Good.
Okay, let's take a vote to approve the developer fees. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0 with an aye. Okay, on to 22.9.
I'll make a motion, we approve the architectural services agreement for architectural design services for the kitchen renovation project at Valencia High School with, I'm going to butcher that name, Ode? I don't know. Bannon Architects, effective December 18th, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, project number 5730. I apologize for getting that wrong.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mrs. Quintero. Is this the one I pulled?
Yes.
Okay. I just really wanted to highlight that we are making our first significant expenditure for this kitchen. I'm extremely excited about it. I'm looking forward to touring the site in January and really seeing what the vision is. And that's why I pulled it.
Me too.
For someone who doesn't have a lot of, I know El Dorado has a kitchen, right? They make, do other three schools have one and Valencia doesn't have one, or is it just?
Valencia's is old.
I have a lovely
My grandma
presentation.
went to Valencia, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Their kitchen
It's
is
the same
But
one.
they,
Whoever
but
said
they have
that.
but they have a kitchen, they're just upgrading it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not at all like El Dorado's.
It is not really a kitchen.
Otherwise one is
It's
good.
just like a food line. They have one oven and they feed
It's
all the
a
students.
portable almost where you push the people through.
So it's the one my grandma got back in the day?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably is. And she was excited because it was new then.
Okay, aye, vote. Yes, let's go.
Okay. Any other questions anybody wants to ask about the kitchen?
No.
No, but there's a lovely presentation available on video that you can watch from last meeting.
Is it from you?
Yes.
Oh, you know I'm there. If it's your presentation, I'm locked in.
If maybe too, if there's a day that the tour is going to go, so we don't have to do like 5 different tours, we could just
Oh, yeah,
kind of
that'd
walk
be
through
cool.
it together. That
Well,
could
I
be.
think only
I'm sure
two of
Ralph-
us can go
Ralph
at
will
a
be happy
time.
to schedule
Well,
all
as long as
that.
we're not
with you.
voting.
As long as we're not voting
As long as we're not
about
voting.
You can
it.
walk through and not talk.
Yeah, no talking.
I mean, you guys went to CSBA together, so.
As long as we're not trying to pull in for getting people to vote a certain way, it's not a Brown Act violation. And it would be fun.
Fun. And then they only have to tell us once.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, I think that's it. Any other comment? No more loving on Mr. Stein? And his glasses
Sorry,
and his
it's just-
presentation?
Sorry.
That's okay. You're allowed to.
He's putting it back on. Okay, aye, let's go.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Luke, did you vote aye? Okay.
Also, Eldo won by 10 points.
By 10?
Yeah,
Okay.
they closed it out in the end.
So it's a 5-0 with an aye from our student board member. Okay. Okay, yep, board reports. So, Mrs. Blades, you want to start?
Okay. Looking forward to having a couple weeks off, as you guys all are. I know that a lot of people are needing the break, and so I hope everybody has a really good Christmas holiday. I'm going to keep this pretty short. One thing that some teachers have come up to me about is they're asking for, I know, and we brought this up a couple years ago, and I remember that like we had taken AR from all the school sites, and then we like implemented again, we allowed them to purchase it. But some of the teachers are asking for AR for the elementary school sites. They're questioning the fact that do we have a formative assessment to check students' comprehension of reading books at their own level. iReady is assessing their skills, but it does not reinforce independent reading. And so they would like some accountability and motivation for kids to read independently. And if we can't measure and help them set goals and good reading habits, you know, how can we help them? Because they feel like this is lacking. Obviously, they're not complaining about iReady. They just want something to go further. Not everyone is born to love to read, but by helping them and showing them books to read of their interests and set goals and measure their understanding, that's kind of what the teachers are asking for. They said that iReady gives their level of ability, but AIR measures their achievement and their motivation to read. And the AIR quizzes allow to see the stratified in skills applied to independent reading books at their own level. It also helps goal setting to encourage and monitor reading habits. And so that's just one thing, as you know, if you go to different sites that they have said. And I know that this was an issue a couple years ago. And so I'm assuming, because I know I asked you for the cost, I think Topaz is like $4,000 for the program, and Woodsboro is like $2,500 for the program. But I think that this is a good idea, and if we can help the school sites and the teachers get this into their classrooms, it would be good. And when I was at Fairmont, I was the AR person in the library. So I did like the AR reading, the reading program. It was good. And then also too, some of the teachers have requested, they said that they have a district teacher who comes out to the school sites and teaches art like 6 times a year. One thing that they have said is they've, you know, while they appreciate the teacher, what a lot of them have said is they really like the Meet the Masters program, and it's been at some school sites. And what they really like is that it has a teaching purpose. Meet the Masters, you learn about the artist, and you use those art, like the same skills that the artist was, to produce their art. And so they're asking if they can have that option at some of their school sites. Or maybe too, you know, like if you have this person come out 6 times a year, can the next year they do the Meet the Masters, or have a little bit of differentiation. Also too, I just wanted to also say that we get a lot of emails and we get put up to date. And I guess earlier, I want to say maybe it was a few weeks ago, there was, or maybe it was a little bit closer to November, but there was some teachers who wanted to transfer, and somehow some of the transfers were stopped momentarily, and like the board members we had no idea about it until after the emails and after like maybe the transfers were stopped or whatever was happening. I don't want to go further into this, but I really didn't appreciate some of the union telling the teachers that I had stopped the transfers, because I don't have that authority to do so. So I would love to have an apology from the union leadership who is telling those teachers directly that I stopped the transfer, because I don't have that power and I don't have the authority to do so. And in fact, the board, after the fact, was told about some of the incidents, just like, you know, we get kept abreast of issues and against things, you know, sometimes while they're ongoing and sometimes while they're already happening. And then, you know, something's already happened and now we get emails from the parents, and so we're brought into it. So in no way did I ever try to stop any type of transfers, you know, or work unilaterally. It seems that the rumor is that the board president, so I don't know if they'll do this to you, Marilyn, since they support you, but it seems like I had an awful lot of power in this last year to do things unilaterally, which just wasn't true. So for the teachers who were told this, it's completely not true. And like I said, I would appreciate if the clarification could also come from the union about this incident. And I'm really glad. We were hoping that we would be able to see the Esperanza El Dorado game, but we missed that. Watching a lot of sports, congratulations to Jeff Bailey for being Coach of the Year and for having a very successful season. Looking forward to the winter sports now. More and more of them are popping up. I've been seeing Esperanza wrestling, El Dorado wrestling, Yorba High School wrestling. watching our middle school sports. Middle school sports is taking off. Everybody's getting excited. I actually ran into a middle school sports coach in Starbucks the other day, and he was telling me how successful the program was. And another thing I think we could think about too, which I don't know if they're going to be happy to hear, but the flag football, I've heard from a lot of parents, there's like 100 kids going out for flag football, but we only are putting a team of 14 together, and so we have 80 kids or 70 kids that are kind of left out. I don't know how we would do it, and I know it'd be a lot of work, but possibly if we're having this much, is there a possible way, to expand and to maybe have several teams so we can really get everybody involved and keep the involvement growing? So that's something that somebody brought up to me as well. And I think that's it. I said I would keep it short. So everybody, Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year. I hope you all have a great holiday season, and we will see you again in January.
Okay, Mr. Frazier?
All right. I will keep mine more brief. I had the chance last Friday to go to Yorba Middle School. There's something called Schools to Watch in California. We have Tuffrey Middle School and Yorba Middle School are in the process of being, I believe, redesignated. And I was able to sit in on the student panel on Friday, whereas I think there was 12 students that got to sit there in front of the evaluator, and he just asked them a bunch of questions about the school. And they gave their replies. It was very slow starting, middle school students that are actually very respectful and very, very articulate. And then it started to pick up, and the feedback from these students was they love their schools, they love their friends. A couple of them, only a few of them, said they wanted longer school days. Now, it was met with a lot of, I'll say, negativity with the other students. But it was really neat to see that process and get a little bit more insight in what's happening actually directly on our campuses from our students. It came up to I believe 2 of the girls were on the flag football team at Yorba Middle School, and 1 or 2 of the girls didn't make the team. And when I heard them say that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So to your point, we have a lot of interest in girls flag football. So I don't know how we do that, but getting as many students to be able to participate as possible would be great. I also then did it to enjoy a double-double with grilled onions with them afterwards, which was phenomenal. Lunch with middle schoolers is just different, right? It's a lot of fun. We had a good time. Beyond that, I'm glad that Luke didn't mention it. Esperanza High School, on their turf field, if you haven't seen, they have a really old scoreboard, or they did, and they just got a brand new scoreboard. So it's phenomenal. That scoreboard's been broken all season, and the football team was very disappointed, but the soccer team gets to use it. So that's awesome. That's been a long time coming. And then I just want to reiterate a few things that I've mentioned in the past to the executive cabinet. DLA high school program. I really want to make sure that that is a focus, that we make sure that there is a place for those kids after they get done with their 8th grade year so that they're able to continue the DLA program, because it is super unique, and I love that we have that here in our district. Second, science camp fee process. Have we communicated with the principals on the best way to do that and then get that to the parents so that everybody that is available, good, cool. And then lastly, I heard somebody say something in comments about Parkview and some students going away from it. Parkview is a phenomenal gem that we have in this district. It's something that's unique. It's not all students learn the same, and the thing that we have at Parkview is very unique. And I, for one, I mean, my kids go there. All of them have gone there. And it is, I think, one of the maybe best kept secrets, the wrong way to put it, because I don't want it to be kept a secret, because it's an opportunity for students to be able to participate in independent study and then learn other life skills along the way. So if there's any concern about dissent about Parkview, I am a big advocate for Parkview, and I think that I only want more support, and I'd love for them to be able to get as many of the things that they need as possible so that they can help our students succeed and even maybe bring more students to Parkview. So that's the end of my board report.
Thank you. Mrs. Quintero?
Well, I'm excited to get my first board report, so I actually wrote it down so I wouldn't forget anything. But I just want to thank everyone for the support the last few months, and really excited to be starting my journey today. I'm really excited, like I said, again, to get to know the board members and work together and hopefully have a more positive impact on the district and with each other. I have done a few things since since being elected. So I attended Peter and the Starcatcher at El Dorado, which was great. It was amazing. They always do such a great job in their theater department. I also attended, like I said earlier, the CSBA conference. It was very informative. I met a lot of new board members, got to really, pick everybody's brain, including superintendents. And during the meeting, the first day was obviously new board members, but during the other sessions, I got to really hear some input from seasoned board members as well. So it was nice to hear that. And from the trainers, I attended school safety session, so I have a lot of information about that. I know Dr. Chernus was interested in that. School governance, finance, civility, and meetings, superintendent evals, Brown Act basics, science of reading that I know is coming up around a lot of districts and how it's going to affect our board. And I just wanted to know, like I said earlier, if we can have somehow a study session or somehow get together and create and to review any board protocols that we may have in place or create new ones, just so we're all on the same page, like I said, and that we all are getting the same information, since I didn't see anything in writing about those. I'd also figured it'd be a good time to reevaluate them too, since we're relatively starting out as a new board. And so I also did that. And then I also attended the Apple Christmas giveaway event, which was great. I got to see a lot of the families who received gifts from the staff and teachers of the district. And it was great to see how each school really supported their families, and really great to see how much was given. I mean, these families were very overwhelmed with the generosity of our staff and teachers. So it was amazing, wonderful, heartwarming to see, and wonderful to see during this season in the holidays. So again, that was a great event. Santa was there, Mrs. Claus, and also Santa Paws with the little pup. So that was wonderful. And again, thank you to all the staff and teachers who donated to that. That was great. I know we've been talking a lot about Parkview, but I also wanted to kind of put out there the BVVA concerns that I've been hearing. I've gotten emails about, is it going away? Is it being pulled out? Is it being sucked into Parkview? I'm just concerned about that, and if we can address that to some of our families that are concerned. I know some information has been out there, but if, as a district, we can kind of put that out there to make sure that that program isn't being dissolved or being pushed out, since it is great, just like Parkview as well. So it's one of the great services we have. But thank you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Did a great job on your first board report.
Thank you.
Mine will be short. I'll just highlight a few things that I've done in interest of time. I got to attend a number of schools and visit classrooms, which is always one of my favorite things to do. I went and visited almost every single class at Esperanza High School. It's harder to get to every class at a high school, so I try. But I got to the majority of them with Mrs. Siracusa. Did I say that right? Siracusa. Oh, I tried. I even had it like all written out. Siracusa. It was great. I had such a nice visit going around and seeing the art class and manufacturing and engineering and into special ed, and get to visit all the teachers. It was a really lovely visit. I attended Woodsboro one morning and got to visit and tour all of the classrooms there with Mrs. Collins. They had so much wonderful things to say about her. They just love her over there. She's very well loved, and there's fun things going around the school. They've got new activities. The day that I was there, they were doing a book exchange. So the older kids had brought a book that they were donating to the younger kids, and they were even being like salespeople at the book fair. It was really cute. And then having all the kids come in and talking to those older students about the book and what was it about, and giving advice. It was adorable. Van Buren, I got to visit there as well with Mr. Camarado, and I visited all the classrooms there, but there was one class that I went into, and I just happened to be there at a particular moment where there was a special education student that had struggled for a really, really long time, and didn't have a lot of interaction with a lot of the other kids, wasn't very well, what happened was that student got upset about something, and instead of getting upset like he normally would, he came up and told the teacher he was upset, gave her a hug, and she consoled him. And that was the first time he had ever done that. It was remarkable to see, and just a shout out to that teacher. She knows who she is. It was just lovely. And that made my day. I did go to some sessions at CSBA for our conference, a couple of them on AI and what that looks like and what's coming for us. So I'm really interested in digging in more of that. We probably should already have policies in place related to AI and what that's going to look like for us. So that should be added to our plan coming up in the next year. I attended a legislative session where they talked about all the different laws and things that are coming from the state at this point for education. And I presented with North Orange County ROP on the Meyer program, which is a medical innovation and research group that, or a group of students did with UCI was fascinating. So I'll pull some of my information and share it with all of you, a couple highlights from each of them, because it's really, I thought it was valuable information. I'm looking forward to the holiday luncheon on Friday. I hope to see our administrators there to kick off the holidays. I wish all of you the best of a break. This is going to be the first time where our students are going away with finals already done, so it'll be interesting to see what they think when they come back, instead of having to do that right when they come back from their break. So
It's so nice. Like, I don't have to, like you get, like, the first week of break, and you're like, it's all fun, and, like, the last week of break, you're like, oh, man, I got to come back and do finals. Like, now it's like, I feel like I haven't had a break yet, but just already, I have one final done, and I'm already more relaxed because I did it again. It's going to be fine during break. So that's how I feel about it.
that was the whole goal. I know that it's been a little wonky with dates and all of that, but
I know some of the teachers are.
But taking a break during your holiday is super important, I think.
The only thing is the teachers like had to change their thing, but I know they can all adapt.
We'll figure it out.
I trust them.
There's always changes that have to be made. Nothing's perfect the first time, so we'll keep working on it. But have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you all in January. We'll see you in January.
Okay. So for my board report, I attended the Placentia prayer breakfast, and that morning was truly inspirational. I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. Dr. Gates was there. The guest speaker was Stephen Kim. He's the director of the Project Kinship, and he really shared his inspirational story of being bullied as a child and becoming a juvenile delinquent, homeless. It was pretty incredible story, and the work that they're doing, and to support students, those that are coming out of prison, but now they are also reaching out to at-risk, and they're starting programs at our at local school districts. So that might be something to look into. He also brought, some graduates. I thought this program would be really good for El Camino and possibly our Gear Up program. So I can give you more information. I attended the Yorba Linda showcase, and I got there late, and it was a packed house, so I couldn't quite get in, but I had a lot of time walking around the gym and talking to the students and hearing more about them, including, yearbook, journalism, AVID, dance, drama, all the wonderful programs there. And Yorba Linda offers a lot of great programs that will fit many different types of students. I attended the elementary superintendent advisory council meeting, and it was great to listen and learn and hear about all the wonderful things that are happening in our schools. I think my favorite part was hearing the principals, and one thing that was like a reoccurring theme at that meeting was just how important the families and the PTA and the community are at each of these schools, and how they really do make a difference for the students and the staff. So a big thank you to all of the parents and PTAs and community for supporting these schools and really helping them. I also attended El Dorado. high school showcase, and Luke was a definite big star there. And I loved watching his spirit and his interaction with current and future students. He was very busy, and one thing that as I go to all these different showcases is each school's personality comes rising to the top, and their culture, and that's what I love about it. And it was just great to see the students and hear them talk about what programs they were interested in, and I talked to several families that night. I attended the CSBA conference, which has been very well documented tonight. One of my favorite things that I did there was during one of the general session, a Dr. Laura Santos spoke, and she talked about basically the science of well-being. And she is the most popular professor at Yale, and she covered her top. She basically gave us this semester-long course in about 45 minutes. And what's so interesting about Dr. Santos is she offers these programs for free. You can go to her website and you can take these classes for free. And she has a teen program as well. And one of the things I was listening at the advisory was Baldwin was talking about how he's working on a resiliency program, and Dr. Santos pretty much has one. And I don't know where he is, but to look into it and see how it could be incorporated is just a possibility. I attended the legal issues facing school boards, where they covered parent notification, school board members' free speech on social media, labor unions, how to lead when you don't get along, and that was another good class. I attended a class on artificial intelligence, charter renewal, the political outlook for 2025, and that's where I heard that the COLA is looking more promising from that meeting. So that was really good news to bring back to the district. I've made Dr. Chernus very happy with that information. I attended the El Dorado Jazz Christmas Breakfast, and Mrs. Buck was there as well, and it's just a fun morning. It put me in the Christmas spirit, and just a big shout out to Mr. Sampson and the band boosters and the jazz band students for making my morning just so fun. And I'll do a shameless plug for them. They are wrapping presents at Walmart. So if you need your presents wrapped, they will be there Thursday and Friday from 4 to 9, and Saturday through Monday from 9 to 9. You can't miss them. And they're even going to be there on Christmas Eve from 9 to 6. So
Donations, I'm guessing.
I think it's donations, isn't it? Yeah, that could be very convenient. So I will do the plug for them. I also had a great time at the Apple gift giveaway. It just, every year I go to this event, it just blows me away, the generosity of our staffs and how they come together to support our communities, and to hear these student stories and these family stories, and it's such a blessing, and it's just a really special experience to go be there, and it just fills my heart with lots of hope, and how we can come together as a community and support each other. I too would like to have some discussions about our dual language academy and things like that, and I would just like to thank Mr. Stein for his time here and his service. I'm very grateful for him and all the hard work he does to keep us all in budget, and I'd just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's. Please enjoy your break and be refreshed for the new year. So,
Marilyn, before we adjourn, how are you guys learning about this staff and Apple thing? Because we're not getting the invites. So is this an invitation thing that you guys are receiving?
I suggest you reach out to Apple and invite them,
And invite them?
and ask them to invite you.
Okay.
This is,
Good to know.
yeah. Just to be clear, we're not supposed to have discussion during our board reports because it's not agendized, so I just don't want to say much. Okay. I'm ready for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Quintero, a second by Mrs. Buck. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Happy holidays, everyone. Plus an aye from our student board member, and we'll adjourn.
Yes, happy holidays. Have a great vacation.
At 9:44.